Record on this computer. There we go. Second, second. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our reading of National Treasure. Joining us this evening is the indomitable George Graham, who will be our Ben Gates this evening. We also have Travis, who is going to be Sandusky, the indomitable, who I already described, so I like that word tonight. He's going to be Sandusky, the FBI agent in charge. We also have Jared joining us. He's going to be our John Adams Gates and Patrick Henry Gates. He's the Gateses, and a couple other characters for us. We also have Jeremy, who's not quite with us yet tonight. He's going to be our Riley Poole. And then we have Kate Cassidy, who is going to be our big bad this evening, Ian Howe. Yes, winter is coming for sure. All right, so without further, sorry, I can't help myself. I've had a lot of caffeine. Without further ado, we shall go. And since I'm also doing scene description, action and. All right, National Treasure. National Treasure, draft by the Wibberleys, and originally written by Jim Koff, Max Fry, and John Turtletub. All right, fade in. Exterior Georgetown streets, 1832 night. Wet cobblestones are beaten by a heavy rain. A carriage wheel splashes through huge puddles.
It was 1832.
Exterior carriage, moving, night. The carriage races through the darkened streets. A flash of lightning illuminates the coachman. It's a drenched boy, Thomas Gates.
Thomas Gates was 10 years old.
Thomas whips the wild-eyed horse and turns a sharp corner. Interior carriage, moving, night. Riding inside is Charles Carroll. He's 96 years old. His weak body racks with coughs, death closing in.
Mr. Charles Carroll, the last surviving signer of the Declaration of Independence, had asked Thomas to take him to see President Andrew Jackson. He said it was urgent.
Exterior, the White House, night. Through the White House windows, we can finally see dressed gentlemen and women partying. Old school. Super old school. Thomas pulls the carriage to a stop, jumps down, and sprints to a doorman.
The president must come quickly.
Interior carriage, night. Thomas opens the carriage door, but Carol sits motionless.
Carol?
Carol peeks an open eye, coughs weakly.
He's not coming, is he?
They told me he was busy.
But the treasure.
Carol breaks into a fit of coughs. Thomas looks down and sees that Carol's handkerchief is stained with blood.
We should have gone to see the doctor.
Carol suddenly pulls the boy close.
Listen, now, or the secret dies with me.
Carol stares at Thomas, dead serious. Carol's face is ashen, desperate look in his eyes. Thomas listens.
That night, Mr. Carroll told Thomas about a great treasure, the greatest treasure of them all.
A pyramid, Egypt, 2000 BC night. The surrounding city is on fire. Interior pyramid, night. Carrying torches, slaves bust down the stone wall, revealing a dark room. A slave holds up his torch to see. A room made of solid gold, filled with items made of gold and precious stones.
A treasure amassed throughout all time.
As the slaves loot the pharaoh's tomb, we push in on the golden tomb walls, which are decorated with Masonic symbols, the all-seeing eye, and the unfinished pyramid. Exterior Jerusalem, 7 AD, night. Roman soldiers carry treasure out of the burning Temple of Solomon. We recognize the treasure as the same treasure from Egypt, only now it includes more. Copper scrolls, a golden menorah, a gold bas-relief.
A treasure amassed over all continents.
As the soldiers cart out the treasure, we cut to the same Masonic temples on the temple columns, then cut to a tremendous pounding, close on men's hands wearing armored gloves. They draw straws. One hand pulls the short straw. We widen to reveal we're in Interior church, 14th century France, night. A group of knights wearing Masonic insignia on their armor look to their brothers with the short straw. The pounding intensifies. Soldiers are banging down the church doors.
A treasure the knights of the Templar found and swore to protect.
The knight with the short straw surrenders his armor, dons a monk's robe, and slips out just as the soldiers burst through the church doors. Outnumbered knights fight bravely. Exterior forest knight, the knight who got away leads a small caravan through the forest. In the carriages, under the traps, the treasure. Under the tarps, the treasure. Exterior castle courtyard, day. King Philip of France watches emotionless as the knights who didn't escape are burned at the stake.
Even when faced with death, for the knights believed that the treasure so great was not meant for any one man, king or not.
The night's screams are drowned out by the sound of ocean as we cut to exterior Atlantic Ocean 1492 day. A ship laden with treasure crosses the stormy sea. The ship's name? The Santa Maria.
The Templar knights who escaped execution took the treasure to the New World.
At the ship's helm is Christopher Columbus. We push in on the medallion hanging around his neck. On it, the pyramid and the all-seeing eye.
The knights were fugitives and developed secret passwords and signs of their order.
We keep pushing in on the medallion until the pyramid fills the screen. Then we transition to exterior, the Pyramid of the Sun, 1521 day. Aztecs hurriedly unload the treasure from the pyramid as Hernando Cortez and his army attack the city.
The treasure survived many more wars and was moved many times.
Interior crypt, 1779, night. Carrying a lantern, a man wearing a tricorn hat closes the stone door on the treasure. The man is Count Casimir Pulaski, general of the Continental Army.
Some believe it was buried in Nova Scotia, but Mr. Carroll told Thomas the treasure had been hidden by the Freemasons, the descendants of the Templar Knights. These descendants included men such as Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington.
Exterior battlefield, ouch, Savannah, Georgia, 1779 day. Rallying his troops against the Redcoats, Pulaski takes a musket ball in the chest and falls from his horse.
And other soldiers who fought bravely for the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. Men like Count Casimir Pulaski, who died in the siege of Savannah.
The soldiers search Pulaski but find only a piece of paper with one word written on it. Charlotte. Interior carriage, night, with his last breath of life.
The secret lies with Charlotte. Find her, and you will find the treasure. Tell the president. Tell no one else.
And with that, Carol dies. And we now notice that Carol is also wearing a Masonic ring. Suddenly, the carriage door opens to reveal President Andrew Jackson, a tall man with flowing gray hair. He looks to Mr. Carroll, but he's too late.
Poor old fool, coming all the way here in the pouring rain.
Exterior White House night. President Jackson starts back. Thomas hurries after him.
Wait, Mr. Carroll wanted me to tell you something.
If this is about that damn treasure,
You know of it?
he's spoken of it no less than 100 times.
He said Charlotte has it.
We've been looking for Charlotte for years. She doesn't exist.
The president stops and looks at Thomas.
Who are you, young man?
Thomas Gates.
Well, you'd best forget anything Mr. Carroll told you. The treasure is a legend, nothing more.
With that, President Jackson turns back to the White House. We push in on Thomas's face, watching the president go.
Well, Thomas never forgot.
Interior retirement home, rec room, 1983 day. Elderly folks watch current President Ronald Reagan on TV, while John Adams Gates finishes regaling his wide-eyed 10-year-old grandson Ben Franklin Gates with his tale. We realize now that the man's voice belongs to John. Oops.
Thomas looked for Charlotte.
John Gates's face reflects a long life spent challenging the elements. He turns the page in the tattered old scrapbook. Close on, a black and white photo, a grown-up Thomas Gates stands at the excavation site. Aztec ruins in the background. The caption, Thomas Gates, Teotihuacan, Mexico, 1856.
As did his son, George Washington Gates.
John turns the page to another photo of another Gates. All the Gatesmen bear a strong family resemblance.
Generation after generation, our ancestors have tried to find Charlotte and failed.
Maybe Charlotte is an anagram. You know, you rearrange the letters and it means something else.
John stops. He never thought of that before.
Like Hotel Crate?
That's too many E's. It'd have to be the Hotel Cart or Tearcloth or Teal Torch or Rachel Ott.
Ben quickly rattles off the anagrams. John is impressed.
Maybe you'll be the one who finally finds her.
How will I know it's the right Charlotte when I do?
John pulls out a $1 bill and presses it on his TV tray.
Because she'll be marked with these.
Close in on the $1 bill, John's craggy figure points to the unfinished pyramid and the all-seeing eye on the back.
The unfinished pyramid and the all-seeing eye. The marks of the Knights of the Templar.
Ben studies the dollar bill with newfound curious awe.
Our founding fathers, the Freemasons, designed our nation's great seal and left us all the clues. These symbols are telling us something. I just don't know what.
Don't worry, Grandpa. I'll figure it out and I'll find her, I swear.
You swear what?
They turn around to find Ben's father, Patrick Henry Gates, 40s. Patrick looks just like his father, albeit decades younger.
That I'll find Charlotte.
I'll skip over the look kind of things. Go ahead, go.
Okay. Damn it, Dad. How many times have I told you? Ben's not going to waste his time chasing a treasure that doesn't exist. He's a Gates. It's in his blood. Ben's gonna look for it just like you did, and I did. He's smarter than us. Ben's going to Harvard. He's going to be a lawyer or a doctor. Right, Ben?
Ben looks to his dad, then to his grandpa, then back to his dad as we dissolve to white. All we can hear is beep, beep, beep. A heart monitor? The beeping fades.
We're losing her.
We widen to reveal we're in exterior snowcapped moving day. Dressed in heavy Arctic gear, intrepid explorer Ben Gates, late 20s, strong family resemblance, monitors, and laptop. On the screen, red and blue dots signifying amplitudes make random patterns on the surface, trace of a beeping GPR pulses.
Go left.
The driver, Riley Poole, 25, unkempt, cranks the wheel. Exterior bearing Arctic landscape day. The snowcat, the Endeavour, trundles left, its tractor treads clawing through the ice. The Endeavour also has giant screw-shaped pontoons to propel over the water. Exterior, the Endeavour moving day. Riley wipes the frost from the window.
You should not hear.
He's here.
We've been looking for weeks. You're going on a data that's 200 years old.
200-year-old data is usually the kind of data you go on when you're looking for something that's been lost for 200 years.
Sailors have a way of exaggerating, you know. What if the storm wasn't as big as they said it was? We could be hundreds of miles off.
Ben scans the landscape ahead where the ice ends in a sheer glacial cliff.
The Inuits said they could still see the mass poking up through the ice just 3 generations ago.
Oh, were they smoking anything at the time?
No.
Only for medicinal purposes.
Just then, the GPR bleeps loudly. They both look to the computer screen. We now see that the red and blue dots have taken unmistakable shape. A blob with splatters. Dun dun dun. Ben and Riley exchange a look. Hopeful but wary.
Could be a frozen whale.
Cut to an ice axe. It swings hard. shattering the ice, revealing a woman's frozen face. We pull back to reveal exterior Arctic landscape day. Ben chips away at the ice. As the ice is chipped away, we see the face carved out of wood. He is leaning on me.
Isn't she beautiful?
Ben grins. When Riley sees the face, he is stunned.
A radio base camp.
Exterior Arctic landscape day. Holding a pole used for measuring snow depth, Ben and Riley watch 3 snowmobiles approach and pull to stops.
Ooh, I'd hate to be you right now. A lot of people relying on you. A lot of money riding on this.
Hate to be you right now. All that cholesterol and hair where it's not supposed to be.
That's funny. A man wearing expensive high-tech gear hops out in a snowcat. This is Ian Howe, 40s, British, a rich adventurer.
Gates, where is she?
Ben gestures to the figurehead in the snow. When Ian sees the woman's face, he grins like a kid on Christmas morning.
Bloody hell, you found it. You really found it. You're a genius.
I told you if you underwrote this expedition, you wouldn't be sorry.
Shaw, get the champagne.
Oh, God, sorry. I'm not a Coke whore. There's cat fur stuck to my nose. Jeez. Ian drops to his knees and studies the figurehead's ow-faced, almost disbelieving.
You know how many expeditions I've financed that have turned up nothing?
Well, now you're about to be rich. We're all about to be rich, and it's a beautiful thing.
A solidly built man, Shaw, approaches without the champagne. A Shaw is the type of man who do anything for hire.
Shaw, the champagne?
Shaw.
I thought we were looking for a 100-foot frigate.
We were. She is.
Then how come GPR indicates this ship's only 81 feet long?
Shaw hands Ben a GPR printout. He reads it.
Because this is a two-dimensional rendering of a three-dimensional object. The image is only 81 feet long because the ship's canted,
Canted.
tipped, tilted, lying at an angle.
How canted?
By our calculations, about 35 degrees, which means the stern's about 57 feet down.
57 feet down. Christ, we'll be digging for a week.
No, we won't.
Ben slams the pole down into the ice and puncturing a small hole. Whoosh, wind blows up on them. Ben shrugs.
Air pocket.
The Endeavour is now parked next to a newly bored hole into the ice. Shaw mans a winch while 2 more workers direct a steel cable which plays out from the Endeavour's front end. 3 men are shipping intense. Shipping, that's his name. Intense and ex-Army and Powell Brawny ex-con. We follow the steel cable down, which disappears down into a hole in the ice. Daylight illuminates the cylindrical blue walls of this narrow opening. Wearing a helmet and a headlamp, Riley rides down onto the cable, which is lowering a heavy generator. Interior of the ice cave, Riley joins Ben and Ian, who are staring at something we don't immediately see. We reverse to reveal a nearly perfectly preserved ship, tipped at exactly 35 degrees. Its hull and stern frozen in a wall of this vast ice cave. The ship is wooden with 3 masts. Its ancient sails are wrapped in its frozen casings. Icicles hang from frozen ropes. One of the ship's masts is broken. The other 2 tower up until they are swallowed by one of the cave's ice ceilings. They all stare at the ship and its ghost-like beauty.
Brigade Charlotte, last seen leaving port for Maine in 1779.
Looks like she ran into some bad weather, huh?
We we follow Ben, who trudges up the icy incline to the bow. With his glove, he wipes away the snow. Through a thick layer of ice, we can now make out the ship's name, Charlotte.
Oh, sweetheart.
Cut to an arc of lights being lit. We pull back to reveal interior ice cave. Day later. The cave is now illuminated by intense lights powered by generators. A nylon rope ladder and cables dangle down from the hole in the cave's ceiling. Shaw, Powell, and Shippen finish securing the ship with ropes and spikes, while Ben, Riley, and Ian don climbing harnesses and snap ice crampons to their boots.
Riley, you take the berthing quarters. Ian, check the captain's cabin. I'll take the cargo hold.
I'll take the cargo hold.
Suit yourself.
Ian rises and moves to the ship. Riley shoots Ben a look.
You dog, you wanted the captain's cabin.
Hey, we're all just looking for the same thing.
Fine. Then I want the captain's cabin.
Sure, whatever you want.
Riley studies Ben, now completely mind-fucked.
Okay, forget it. You're trying to trick me. I know it. I got the berthing quarters. You take the crappy captain's cab.
Interior ice cave ship's deck. Ian, Ben, and Riley move across the steeply angled deck. Each wears a helmet lamp and carries a metal detector. The old ship groans as the timbers shift under their weight. They cross the deck, then move into different directions. Interior, the berthing quarters. Riley ducks his head under frozen hammocks as he moves through the cramped crew's quarters. He sweeps his metal detector over the debris. Nothing. Ian moves through the gun deck. Heavy iron cannons all had slid across the floor and lie piled at the stern. In the upper companionway, Ben edges down a tilted staircase. In the berthing quarters, Riley's headlamp plays over the broken shelves, ropes, boxes, and stops on 3 men's heads. Riley lets out a startled gasp. Ben overhears Riley's gasps on the radio headset.
Riley.
Warily, Riley comes around to find a trio of seamen bundled in blankets, eerily frozen.
Uh-huh.
Find something?
Uh-huh.
Intercut Ben. By the sound of Riley's voice, he knows.
Dead people?
Uh-huh.
What did you expect? You're in the berthing quarters.
Ben wrenches open a door. Its frozen hinges squeal. Interior, the captain's cabin. Ben finds an old oil lantern and lights it with a lighter. We see then the captain's cabin. Plush furniture, an ornate desk, everything covered in a thin layer of ice. Ben moves to the desk and quickly rifles through it. He finds nothing of value except for an antique pocket watch which he pockets. Then he looks down and notices deep scratches in the floor by the desk. Interior lower cargo hold. Ian gets a reading on his metal detector. He pushes aside some netting, finds a trunk. He pries it open. Dishes. Interior captain's cabin. Ben pushes the desk aside, revealing a trap door underneath. He pulls it open, peers down to find a dark, hidden room. Inside that hidden room, Ben jumps down, looks around. The room is crowded with large barrels. He pulls one of the plugs and black gunpowder spills out into the pile under the icy floor. Ben turns to go, then notices 2 boots poking out from between 2 rows of barrels. Ben moves to the row and finds the captain, frozen dead, gun in his lap, leaning against one of the barrels. Riley enters to find Ben nowhere in sight.
Down here.
He hurries to the trapdoor and peers down to see Ben struggling with a barrel of gunpowder.
You found it.
Interior hidden room. Riley jumps down to the room as Ben pries open the barrel.
There's gold in there. I can smell it.
Excited, Riley watches as Ben lifts the lid. More gunpowder, but Riley is undaunted.
Maybe it's in another barrel.
But Ben sticks both arms into the barrel he opened.
Captain was guarding this barrel for a reason.
As Ben roots around, gunpowder spills all over the floor. After a beat, Ben finally stops. He's found something. He exchanges a look with Riley, then pulls out a small box. It's labeled Little Hunting Creek, Virginia. Ben carefully opens it, revealing an ivory pipe.
Riley, do you know what this is?
I'm hoping $1 billion pipe.
Ian enters as Ben and Riley emerge from the trapdoor.
Ian, look at this.
Ben shows them the pipe. Ian glances at it, unimpressed.
A meerschaum pipe, 18th century. I have 3.
This box is marked Little Hunting Creek. That's what Mount Vernon was called before George Washington's family renamed it.
George Washington's pipe. And
And it's going to lead us to the treasure.
lead us? You said the treasure would be on Charlotte.
No, I said the secret lies with Charlotte. This pipe has to be that secret.
Ben strains to make out something on the pipe.
There are markings on here. I need some ink.
I didn't spend $250,000 to find a pipe.
Ben finds a quill and a bottle of ink, but the ink is frozen.
Come on, Ian. This is a treasure hunt. You can't just find it in the first place you look.
It only took me 3 weeks to find the Panamanian galleon wreck with my last so-called expert. I've been funding you for 6 months.
7.
Ben takes the quill and suddenly stabs his finger with the tip. Riley sees this and winces.
Ah, what the hell are you doing?
Ben rubs his blood on the pipe, then rolls the pipe over the desktop, revealing an imprint in blood. We recognize the symbols, the all-seeing eye and the unfinished pyramid.
The Templar symbols.
say where the treasure is?
Ben reads from the bloody imprint on the desk.
The legend writ, the stain affected, the key in silence undetected. 55 an iron pen, Mr. Matlock can't offend.
I didn't hear the part about X marks the spot.
What does it mean?
It's a riddle, key in legend, it's referring to a map.
What map?
Undetected and in silence means the map is hidden.
Of course, a hidden map. Where?
Ian picks up the pipe and studies it.
Iron pen could mean the iron manacles, iron bars, 55 men in prison, or, no wait, perhaps 55 refers to the year 1755. Who's Mr. Matlack?
Timothy Matlack, the official scribe of the Continental Congress. Iron because they used iron-based inks back then.
Scribe? A writer?
No, a calligrapher. He transcribed documents for the Continental Congress.
So Mr. Matlack made a map. Where would he hide it?
Mr. Matlack can't offend. Why can't he offend it?
Means he didn't write over the map. It's probably on the back of something he transcribed.
What did he transcribe?
Lots of things. The most famous document being
Being what? The Constitution? The Bill of Rights?
no,
Oh, thank God.
Declaration of Independence.
Oh, God. There's no map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. There's a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
It's brilliant if you think about it. Such an important document ensured the map's survival.
Too bad we'll never see it.
Nonsense. We get a viewing.
Nobody gets a viewing, not even the president.
What kind of sick person would put a treasure map on the back of the Declaration of Independence?
Could have been a number of people. 9 of the signers of the Declaration of Independence were known to be Freemasons. Ben Franklin, Robert Treat Paine, John Hancock, to name a few. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were suspected members of the order. George Washington wasn't a signer, but he had access. He was a first master mason. He was also a surveyor and mapmaker before he was commander of the Continental Army. He's got my vote.
Well, there's one way to see the Declaration of Independence in person.
Really? How?
We'll borrow it.
Ben laughs incredulous. Ian pockets the pipe.
Come on, Ben. The lost treasure of the Knights of the Templar is the treasure of all treasures. Gold from the Temple of Solomon, King Alaric II's ransom of the Athenians, the entire wealth of 5th century Rome, the sword of Alexander the Great. You've been looking for this treasure all your life. You're not going to let a piece of paper stand in the way, are you?
Can't be serious.
What else are you gonna do? Go back to working on salvage crews? Comb beaches with a metal detector looking for doubloons? Oh, that's right. You have your PhD in history. Maybe you can go teach high school.
Forget it, Ian. I won't steal the Declaration of Independence.
Don't get soft now. You begged me to finance your expedition when everyone else thought you were crazy.
You financed this expedition because you knew this treasure would make you famous.
And it will.
I won't let you.
Ian pulls out his gun from his belt, trains it on Ben, who is stunned.
Oh, you didn't bring one of these?
You're not going to shoot me, Ian, not until you know all that I know about the riddle.
Such as?
Put the gun away.
Ian turns his gun on Riley instead.
Tell me, or I shoot Riley.
Wait! How do you know I don't know something else about the riddle? Come on! Come on! I know stuff.
Perfect, and I just love the reaction. Ben and Ian can't help but just give Riley a look. Ian pulls the trigger. Blam! Riley flinches as the glass portal in the wall just behind him shatters. The old ship groans.
Shit! Come on, Ben! Tell him what he doesn't know!
Okay.
Ben comes up with his lighter and flicks it on.
For one thing, the whole room below us is full of gunpowder.
Ben holds the flame over the trapdoor in the floor.
You shoot me when I drop this, and none of us gets out of here alive.
Ian eyes the flame. Ben eyes the gun. A tense standoff.
Whoa. How do we all go from wildly rich to dead in a matter of minutes? Let's think here.
Just then the flame flickers and goes out. Ian shrugs. On reflex, Ben tackles Riley and hurls them both to the ground behind the desk as Ian opens fire on them. Blam, 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 blam. I love how that's written in the script. Bullets chew up the desk and walls. One bullet takes out a gas lantern. It explodes with an oil fire, instantly setting the desk ablaze. Under the companionway, Ian hurries out of the cabin and battens the door shut. Interior of the ship's captain's cabin. Flames spill down from the desk and deep and creep across the floor. Ben tries the cabin door. It's locked.
We gotta put this fire out.
Riley tries to smother the fire. It's hopeless. Ben grabs his axe and slams it to the door. Riley joins him. We pan down to the burning room floor and push through it into interior ship hidden room. Burning embers fall from the ceiling, float to the floor, catching the powder trail spilled on the ground. It ignites and burns a path toward the barrels of gunpowder. Interior ice cave ship's deck. Ian hurries across the tilt deck, calling to his men.
Get the hell out of here. It's gonna blow.
Ian leaps off the deck, then runs with Shaw to the rope ladders.
I heard gunshots.
Gates and Riley tried to kill me.
Interior, the hidden room. The burning trail of gunpowder reaches the first barrel, and the wood barrel catches fire. Exterior, Arctic landscape. Shaw and Powell and ship and run like hell to their snowcats. Ian is the last man out of the hole in the ice, and he pulls up the rope ladder. Shaw climbs into the snowcat.
Come on.
Ian jumps in with Shaw, and they all take off. Interior ship's cabin. An inferno. Portals shatter and their panes shift. Ben and Riley finally bust through the door and scramble out. The barrel of the gunpowder burns, fully engulfed. Interior the cave, the ship's deck. Ben and Riley emerge from below and look across the way to find the new rope ladders are gone. They're trapped.
Pull up the ladders.
Riley regards his surroundings, resigned.
Why do I ever listen to you? I was 2 credits away from graduation.
That was 7 years ago.
Ben spots a swivel crossbow harpoon mounted on the deck and hurries to it.
Intel offered me a job with my own cubicle.
Ben ties the rope to a spear and loads it to the harpoon.
Do we have to go over this every expedition?
Until I get rich, yes.
Ben wheels the harpoon around and aims it at Riley's head.
Fine, now duck.
Ben releases the harpoon. Whoosh! A spear rockets over and a ducking Riley up to the cave ceiling. Thunk! Ben grabs the rope, pulls hard, and the ice ceiling caves in, opening a hole just above the ship's bow. Exterior Arctic landscape. Ben and Riley clamber out of the ground just where the lady figurehead pokes through the ice. They race to the Endeavor. Intercut with a barrel of gunpowder. It blows. Kaboom! Intercut, the Arctic landscape. A ground shakes violently. Ben and Riley dive into the Endeavor just as, intercut, the other barrels blow in a chain reaction series of explosions. Boom, 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 boom! Exterior, the Arctic landscape continuous. A fireball erupts from the snow and ice. The concussion launches the Endeavor forward, off. The glacial cliff! The Endeavor plummets down too! Exterior, Arctic Ocean. The Endeavor hits the water and sinks like a rock as a fireball rolls skyward in the background, burning shards of wood and rain down into the icy waters. A long beat then. Whoosh, the Endeavor pops back up, floating on its pontoons. Interior Endeavor floating continuous. Riley laughs, incredulous.
It drives, it flies, it floats, it needs to use a toilet.
Ben looks at the smoke and fire, solemn.
Ian's gonna steal it.
Why do you always have to focus on the negative? You found Charlotte. That was your life's quest. Be happy. I'm the one who should be upset. I'm not wildly rich, which is my life's quest.
Riley, it's the Declaration of Independence.
Do you see any American flag planted in my ass? I didn't even vote in the last election. I'm in this for the money.
Well, if Ian gets the Declaration of Independence, he gets the treasure, all of it.
Riley considers that last beat then.
Suddenly, I'm feeling very patriotic.
Exterior, the mall, Washington, D.C. day. The famous Green Thoroughfare, there's a Lincoln Monument, the Washington Monument, the White House. We travel down Pennsylvania Avenue, finally coming to the National Archives, a beautiful neoclassical building. Close in on the Declaration of Independence. We are tight on the autograph of John Hancock. We pull back to reveal the National Archives Rotunda Day. Tourists crowd around the Declaration of Independence exhibit. Riley finishes counting the signatures.
54, 55, 56. I don't get it. There are 56 signatures. The riddle said 55 in iron pen.
The 56th signature, Thomas McKeon's, wasn't added until 1781, 2 years after the Charlotte disappeared.
Riley looks to the document again and then shrugs.
Well, it's still here. Looks like Ian came to his senses.
What are you doing?
They turn to find a guard standing behind him. He gestures to the line of tourists which snakes through the rotunda.
You're holding up the line.
Exterior National Archives Day. Ben and Riley exit the building.
So we're back. Let's go say hi to your dad. Tell him that your treasure hunting days are over.
Just then, Ben grabs Riley and pulls him behind a column.
All right, I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to talk about your dad.
Ben motions with his head, and Riley follows his gaze to across the street where Ian and Shaw climb into a sedan and drive away. Riley watches them go, incredulous.
No way. They can't be doing this. This isn't some liquor store. It's the National Archives. It's impossible to break in.
Nothing's impossible. Ian will hire an expert or pay off somebody on the inside, or both.
Close on the remains of a shipwreck submerged in murky water. A giant fish darts into the frame. A goldfish. We widen to see we're in interior Ben's loft apartment day. The studio loft crowded with books, maps, a computer, scuba gear. Many historical items like "Don't Tread on Me" flag, which is framed but not hanging on the wall. Keys jingle at the door and it opens to Ben and Riley.
I don't think we're safe here.
Ian thinks we're dead.
Suddenly, there's a noise outside the door. Ben grabs a spear gun and Riley whips open the door to reveal a lady. Actually, it's the landlady, who greets the spear gun pointed at her with a bored smile.
This is why you can't keep a girlfriend.
They sigh, relieved. Ben lowers the spear gun.
Hello, Mrs. Doyle.
Did you find it?
No.
Yes.
You know, when you talk about Charlotte all the time, it scares the girls away. That last girlfriend you had was really nice, too.
Don't worry, I won't be talking about Charlotte ever again.
Does that mean you're settling down now?
Yes.
Ben digs into his pocket and comes up with the antique pocket watch she found on the Charlotte.
Here, I got something for you.
The landlady inspects the watch, amazed.
18th century, French, 14K gold key, very rare.
It's beautiful, thank you.
Ben kneels down and starts rifling through his sacks of books and maps and charts. She watches him.
You know, Ben, what you need to do is stop reading so much and go out and have some fun.
You're right, we will.
Ben stands holding a stack of books, and we cut to close on the books, which are now strewn across a cherry wood desk. We widen to reveal we're in interior the Library of Congress reading room day. This 19th century building is the grandest library in all of America. Ben and Riley study a schematic at the table.
Every night, the Declaration of Independence is lowered down into the vault room, which is directly below the rotunda.
Close in on a blueprint of the National Archives. We follow Ben's finger as it traces the path down through the rotunda floor and to the vault room right below.
Where it's locked up in a specially designed, impenetrable, 50-ton steel vault, where it's protected from heat, cold, even 1,000 years of nuclear winter. The entire process takes just 2 minutes. But during those 2 minutes, the Declaration of Independence is vulnerable.
That's when Ian's going to go do it.
Doubt it. A better time would be to create a situation wherein the Declaration would be automatically lowered into its vault when the guards aren't there.
Well, Ian would have to create some external chaos because there's no way he can hack in.
Why not?
Because most of these old government facilities use the old data link encryption-based security system. Once you're in, you can do whatever you want, but only a handful of people know how to get in.
And would one of those people happen to be someone who gave up a good life at Intel to help save its country?
Could be.
Then it looks like we have the edge.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait. Whoa. Holy shit.
Riley's holy shit echoes loudly through the room. Shh, it's a library. All heads turn to glare at him. Riley lowers his voice.
You just said we.
Yeah, as in me and you.
No. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. Bad idea.
What's bad? We take it first so Ian can't steal it.
You're right. That's not a bad idea. It's an incredibly horrible get your ass reamed for life in prison idea.
It's the only way to protect it.
How did we go from let's stop Ian to let's take it ourselves?
You got a better idea?
As a matter of fact, I do.
Interior National Archives Office Lobby Day. Ben and Riley wait. Dr. Abigail Chase, Charters of Freedom Custodian, is stenciled on the door.
Want me to do the talking?
No, this is my idea. You'll try to make it sound crazy.
Just then, a bookishly beautiful Dr. Abigail Chase opens up her office door. She sees Ben and Riley. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Please come in. Ben and Riley exchange a look. She's prettier than they expected her to be. Interior National Archives. Abigail moves to her desk as Ben and Riley enters her office, which is decorated with colonial art and Revolutionary War era artifacts.
Thanks for seeing us on such short notice, Dr. Chase.
So, what can I do for you today?
Okay, this is going to sound crazy, but somebody's going to steal the Declaration of Independence.
All terrorist threats must be reported directly to the FBI. Let me get you their number.
This isn't a terrorist threat. The people behind it are treasure hunters.
And they want to steal the Declaration of Independence because
Um, uh, because there's a treasure map on the back.
is this a joke?
We just found proof in a ship that was wrecked over 200 years ago.
I see. Well, I've seen the back of the Declaration of Independence, and I assure you there is no map.
Really? Are you sure?
Absolutely, I've seen it many times.
Have you ever touched it?
Of course not. No one touches it. It's hermetically sealed in a bulletproof thermopane case.
It must frustrate you seeing something every day and not being able to touch it.
There's an undeniable charm about Ben, but Abigail does her best to shrug it off. I touch the case every day, which is closer than most people will ever get to it, which makes me the expert in this room about there being or not being a map on the back, which there definitely is not.
That's because it's invisible.
It is?
Invisible inks were common back then. They were used by both the British and American armies to send secret spy letters during the Revolutionary War. Or the parchment could have been palimpsest. Animal skin paper wasn't exactly easy to make and was,
Often cleaned and reused. I know what palimpsest is.
of course you did.
So, do you have any proof about this invisible map?
It was a riddle on an old pipe.
May I see the pipe?
Um, we don't have it.
Did Bigfoot take it?
I told you it'd sound crazy.
Ben straightens the framed collection of coins. Don't touch that, please. Ben
1789. George Washington campaign buttons. All you need is the silver-plated inaugural button to complete the set. I found one of those once digging in a backyard in Maryland. You know, they're worth about $5,000.
You're treasure hunters as well.
Formerly, now we're more like treasure protectors.
Well, Mr. Ben reaches out and shakes her hand.
Brown, Paul Brown, and this is my friend Tom Jeffries.
She shakes his hand. Well, Mr. Brown and Mr. Jeffries, let me assure you that the Declaration of Independence is safe. We have a very sophisticated security system designed to stop crazy people like yourselves from getting near it. Interior National Archives Corridor Day. Ben and Riley move down the corridor.
Paul Brown and Tom Jeffries.
When the Declaration of Independence turns up missing, the feds will go after anyone who reported it was about to be stolen. Those are common names. They should keep them busy for a while. Buy us some time.
So we're really going to do it.
I am. I could use your help.
Ben pulls out a handkerchief and starts wiping his hand.
Once we get it, what are we going to do with it?
Look at the back.
We would?
Of course. If we don't look at the back, we'll never find the treasure. If we don't find the treasure, someone will always come looking for the map, which means the Declaration of Independence will always be in danger until we find the treasure.
Riley nods.
Then we have to look at the back. It's our duty as Americans.
Now Riley notices Ben wiping his hand.
What's on your hand?
Ultraviolet ink. Dr. Chase has daily access to the vault. I shook her hand.
You knew we were going to do this all along, didn't you?
I was hoping she would believe us so we wouldn't have to.
Yeah, me too.
Close in on a woman's fingers as they quickly punch in a passcode into a keyboard. A beat, then clunk. The solenoid lock releases as we widen to reveal Interior National Archives Corridor Day. Abigail stands at the security entrance to the vault room with Dr. Stanley Herbert, 40s, suave, intellectual.
So, you need a ride tomorrow night? I could swing by, pick you up.
He pushes through the heavy security door leading into the National Archives vault room, a high-tech room of concrete and steel. In the middle of the room, a 50-ton Mossler vault stands open. A scissor jack extends out of it and up to a steel slot in the ceiling. Abigail and Dr. Herbert enter. Oh, that's me. So I forget I do both. Dr. Herbert, if you come by to pick me up and we went to the gala together, that would be like you and me going on a date.
It's more like carpooling.
It's more like a date, and I don't date coworkers.
I'm not a coworker. I'm your boss.
Grainy surveillance video of the same. We widen to reveal we're in the National Archives security station. Guards study a bay of monitors which flip through a rotation of surveillance images covering every inch of the archive. The head guard, Joe Woodruff, 50s career government employee, zooms in on the vault room, then leans into a microphone.
Good evening, Dr. Chase, Dr. Herbert.
Intercut Abigail and Dr. Herbert in the vault room. Hi, Joe. She opens the drawer, grabs a handheld gas chromatographer. Ready whenever you are? Intercut Woodruff, who grabs a key on the console.
This is why they pay me the big bucks.
He turns the key and interior of the National Archives vault room. The scissor jack springs to life and starts to retract. Interior National Archives, Rotunda Day. Two guards patrolling the empty rotunda watch as the Declaration of Independence is lowered in its case from its exhibit. We push in on it and follow it as the scissor jack retracts, pulling the Declaration of Independence through a steel slot in the floor into the vault room. As the scissor jack retracts, the Declaration of Independence descends in its case from the slot in the ceiling. Abigail steps up to the document and waves the gas chromatographer. It's chromatograph is the actual word. Along the thermopane case's edge, the instrument whizzes and hums, all apparently normal noises. You ever wonder if there was something on the back of the Declaration of Independence that, I don't know, might have been overlooked?
That document's been examined more than a corn farmer on an alien spaceship.
Everything we know of early Archimedes came from the palimpsest overlooked for centuries. The Declaration reaches the vault and tips backwards.
If you're lending for a grant, you're going to have to come up with something better than that. You don't want people to think you're crazy.
The Declaration lies in the vault, and then the 5-ton steel vault doors slide closed with a loud thunk as we cut to exterior Green Line subway station directly across the street from the National Archives. Inside the subway station, carrying a briefcase, Ben and Riley descend on the escalator into this modern, spacious station. The platforms are crowded with commuters. Ben and Riley step off the escalator and move through the throng to the far end of the platform. Ben waits for the train to pull away, then jumps down onto the tracks. Riley reluctantly follows. Interior Green Line subway tunnel, Ben and Riley continue hurriedly along the tracks, the dim glow of a flashlight's only a few yards ahead of them. They finally come to a door bolted closed with a heavy lock and stop. Ben pulls some bolt cutters out of the briefcase. Interior the subway utility room. Ben and Riley work in a cramped public works substation using handheld electrical saw with a 2-inch circular blade. Ben finishes cutting a hole in one of the many PVC pipes that run along the ceiling of the substation. Riley opens the briefcase as he pulls out a toy tractor truck, actually a sophisticated remote operated vehicle, an ROV, with a camera taped to the hood. We cut to a God's eye view of the Pennsylvania Avenue. Evening, people, cars, buses. The National Archives on one side of the street, the Green Line subway station on the other. We push down towards the pavement, closer until we butt up to it, then seamlessly move through the pavement. Underground, we travel vertically through the layers of concrete, rocks, dirt, and concrete again. It opens up into a labyrinth of pipes, fiber optics, gas, electric. We push into one pipe and move seamlessly inside. The pipe were moving in the direction of the National Archives, finally catching up to the ROV. The motor whirs and its headlights play and turn on the pipe ahead. Yes, Kat, you're there. Enter utility room. Riley navigates the ROV with the joystick and laptop, which plays back what the ROV is seeing.
What time is it?
Around 5. Why?
I'd be getting off of work at Intel.
On the screen, the ROV arrives, an intimidating matrix of conduit wrapped in a bunch.
There it is.
He punches the key on the laptop, maneuvers the laptop, and maneuvers the joystick. In the pipe, the ROV extends a mechanical arm, finds a red wire, and clips on tight. With a whoosh, we rush into the wire and travel light speed to Interior National Archives Security Station. Night guards monitor the surveillance bay. On one monitor, we see the video of the vault room. Intercut the laptop screen on which the same surveillance. What do you mean? Same surveillance video plays. We're back in the subway utility room. Ben and Riley study the surveillance feed of the vault room and the laptop screen. The vault stares back at them. Interior of the subway station, Ben and Riley exit.
So when are we doing this?
We're going to beat Ian. We've got to do it tomorrow night during the gala.
Ben gestures across the street to the National Archives. Red, white, and blue banners hang between the fluted columns announcing its 75th anniversary gala tomorrow night.
There'll be hundreds of people there.
Hundreds of very important people. Any glitch in the system, and the guards will have their hands full protecting the dignitaries.
I suppose while I'm hacking into the archive security system, you'll be needing me to get you on their guest list as well.
Your talents would have been wasted at Intel.
Exterior National Archives night. Pennsylvania Avenue is lined with limbos and luxury sedans as tuxedo men and women in designer gowns arrive. Interior National Archives, the North Foyer. Guests pass through the metal detectors at the check-in. Interior the National Archives Rotunda. A small string orchestra plays while hundreds of guests mingle in the rotunda. Looking stunning in her sparkly formal gown, Abigail stands with Dr. Herbert. What do you think Thomas Jefferson would say if he were here?
He'd say, Abigail, you need to find a man of whom you are as passionate about as me, who's not dead.
We travel through the throng and come to a heavy-set senator sipping wine. We cut to video surveillance of the same. As we widen to reveal interior van night, Riley sits in the back of his van, sipping coffee and watching surveillance feeds on his laptop. On the screen, he zooms in on the fat senator.
He sees you when you're drinking.
He pans to a smarmy man flirting with a pretty lady.
He knows when you are cheating.
He zooms in until the pretty lady's butt fills the screen.
He knows when you left your panties at home.
Wow. As Riley zooms in, I'm so glad they cut that. As Riley zooms in on the butt, we transition to it's Riley, dude. No, me too. Interior National Archives Rotunda night. The same lady live in the rotunda with the smarmy man. We pan across the crowd and finally find Ben wearing a tuxedo and staring at the Declaration of Independence.
Sir?
Ben turns to find a waiter with a tray of champagne.
Champagne?
Oh, shit, yes.
Ben smiles and takes a glass of champagne. He then looks to a surveillance camera mounted on the wall. Interior van night. On the laptop screen, Ben is looking right at Riley. He tips his glass to him and then talks under his breath.
Mr. Freedom.
Riley holds up his coffee cup and leans into the microphone. Oh no, did we scare Riley away?
Lean into the
The
mic.
last night of it. Our last night of it.
Interior National Archives Rotunda night. They toast. Ben looks at the Declaration of Independence.
Maybe this is a bad idea.
No, it's a good idea.
Riley studies the laptop screen.
We don't know about Ian, not for sure.
Riley spots something on the screen. Not good news.
Yes, we do. He's here.
On the laptop screen, we now see Ian and his men unloading a catering truck near the back entrance into the archives. And back inside the rotunda, Ben moves purposefully across the rotunda. What are you doing here? Ben turns to see Abigail. Tonight, she's simply captivating. Thank you. She takes Ben's breath away.
Dr. Chase.
Mr. Brown, I don't remember seeing your name on the guest list.
I made a last-minute donation.
Intercut Riley in the van watching Ben and Abigail. Shouldn't you be out robbing some graves or desecrating something?
Dude, no time for mingling.
Night is still young.
So I've been wondering, what did the riddle say?
Riddle?
On the pipe that Bigfoot took. Your friend said there was a riddle. What did it say? But just then Dr. Herbert arrives to cock-block with 2 glasses of champagne.
Abigail, your drink.
Dr. Herbert hands Abigail a glass, not happy she's already hooked up with somebody at the party.
Who's your friend?
Ben reaches out to shake his hand.
Paul Brown, and you must be Dr. Herbert.
You know me?
I referenced your paper on feudalistic influence in the southern colonies in my thesis.
Oh, you're an academic.
Was.
Interior National Archives Security Station, night. Woodruff and the guards watch the surveillance bay. We push in on a monitor with a feed of the back service entrance where catering workers unload foodstuffs from a truck. The POV hands back and forth as we cut to an armor dome camera doing its sweep. We widen to see Exterior National Archives service entrance night. Shaw waits for the camera to pan away, then aims a tricked-out HV-lit taser gun and fires. Boosh! 2 electrodes attached to the insulated wires shoot out of the gun 100 miles per hour, latch onto the camera dome, and then pump 100,000 bolts into the camera. The camera sputters and sparks, shorted out. Interior National Archives Security Station, night. The monitor cuts to snow. Woodruff gets on his radio. Alt.
Ferguson?
Interior National Archives Service Corridor. A guard patrolling the service corridor gets in on his radio.
Yeah?
We lost perimeter camera 7. Go check it out.
Back into the rotunda, Ben stands with Abigail and Dr. Herbert. Ben looks around anxious.
So, Mr. Brown, what brings you here tonight?
High treason. That's what the 56 men, by signing the Declaration of Independence, were committing. Had we lost the war, they'd have been hanged, beheaded, drawn, and quartered, or my personal favorite, had their entrails cut out and burned while they were still alive.
Ben grabs a drink off the passing tray and holds it up.
Jack, let's toast them. The brave men who did what was considered wrong in order to do what they knew was right.
Dr. Herbert toasts enthusiastically, so does Abigail, although more guardedly.
Now, if you'll excuse me.
Ben leaves and Abigail watches him go, suspicious.
Charming man. I liked him.
Interior the service corridor, night. Guard Ferguson arrives at the back service entrance and stops and keys in his passcode. Exterior service entrance. Guard Ferguson pushes open the door and is greeted by a boosh. Sorry, I keep doing that. The rope hits him square in his chest, and then a surge of high voltage knocks him out on his ass. Ian and his men enter, stepping over the unconscious guard. Ian shuts the service entrance. Shaw opens a black duffel bag, grabs some duct tape and nylon rope. Back in the van, night. The same snowy surveillance feed plays on Riley's laptop.
Ian took out the service entrance camera. 10-1, he's inside already. We should have done this last night.
Interior National Archives, Record of America, night. Ben heads down the museum walkway, which is crowded with gala guests. He talks Sato into his hidden mic.
Last night the building was locked down like it is every night. That's why we're doing it tonight.
That's why Ian's doing it tonight, too.
Okay, I can beat him there.
Ben stops. Around the corner is a set of elevators. A surveillance camera monitors the elevator foyer. Intercut with Riley watching the feed of the elevator foyer.
Go.
On cue, Riley presses a key, and on the screen, a new window opens so that there are 2 windows on the screen, both show an empty elevator foyer.
Zap! You're the invisible man.
He types a command and presses enter. We rush in on the enter key, move light speed through the computer, out the USB cable, and up the antenna into a tiny antenna on the ROV, which is still parked inside the pipe and patched into the security system. Interior the security station, guards monitor the surveillance bay. There is a tiny hiccup, but barely noticeable, and the video switches over.
Has Ferguson checked back in yet?
We push in on the empty foyer video with transition to the van at night. Riley's laptop screen and the same video plays in one of the windows. It's a previously recorded loop of the empty foyer. In the window, the loop is labeled playback. In the other window, the real surveillance feed of Ben in the foyer plays. The feed is labeled live. Interior National Archives elevator night. Ben steps into the elevator, punches B for basement call button, and the elevator starts to descend.
See Ian anywhere?
Intercut with Riley checking the surveillance feeds on his laptop.
Nope.
Let's do this.
Riley keys a command on his keyboard.
Okay, on my go, you have exactly
Ben's setting the timer on his wristwatch.
2 minutes, I know.
Interior of the excuse me. Interior of the stairwell access. Simultaneously, Ian, Shaw, and Powell and Shippen move down a corridor into a stairwell access door. On it, a sign reads, "Alarmed entry, authorized access only." Ian looks to his men.
Time to make history.
He pulls out a remote, presses a button. A red light flashes as we cut to Pennsylvania Avenue night. A steel transformer box across the street from the National Archives explodes, showering the street in sparks and fire. Interior the Rotunda. In the Rotunda, the lights flicker and go out. The party guests all react to a power outage. Into the elevator, night. The elevator lights also flicker and go out, and the elevator suddenly jerks to a stop. Interior Riley, Van on his laptop, the video feeds all cut to snow.
Shit, that wasn't me.
Back to Ben in the elevator, he punches all the call buttons, but the elevator is stuck.
Ian blew a transformer.
Power outage will trigger the emergency protocol.
Ben starts a stopwatch.
That means the declaration is on its way down already.
He tries to pull open the elevator doors to no avail. He looks around, mind ticking.
Trigger the alarms. We got to stop Ian.
Intercut to Riley. He stares at his laptop screen filled with a flashing security message.
The power outage already tripped all the alarms. Everything's going off. Guards won't know what's Ian and what's not.
Back in the security station on the surveillance bay, every light is indeed blinking.
Sir, we've lost surveillance and main power.
Emergency protocol's been initiated.
Switch to auxiliary, then reboot and run a systems check.
Interior of the Rotunda, night. Murmurs sweep across the crowd of politicians as the Declaration of Independence exhibit is automatically lowered into the Rotunda flooring. Back in the security station, guards frantically try to get their systems back up.
I want every available body on the floor. Let's make sure our party guests are safe.
Back in the Rotunda, auxiliary power kicks in and the lights come back on. A guard steps to calm the crowd.
We just had a little power outage, but everything's under control. You'll notice the documents are being lowered into their vaults, but this is just standard procedure. They will be back shortly.
Abigail and Dr. Herbert exchange concerned looks. Interior of the elevator, night. Ben slides the ceiling tile aside, but then the elevator powers back up and starts descending again. Back to Riley in the van, he checks his stopwatch.
96 seconds.
Cut to close on a thermatic lance burning at 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, cutting through solid steel. We wind to reveal interior of the stairwell access. Shaw cuts through the security door with a thermic lance. Ian checks his watch. A beat. Shaw finishes cutting through the steel deadbolts and the door releases. Back in the Rotunda, the orchestra starts playing again, and the waiters start serving drinks, quelling the crowd. Abigail watches the Declaration of Independence disappear from its exhibit. Her spider senses are tingling. Intercut with the Declaration of Independence moving by scissor jack into the subflooring. Interior National Archives stairwell. Ian and his men charge down the stairs. Back into the inner corridor. The elevator dings open and Ben slips into his long corridor. Ben moves quickly to the huge steel vault room door at the end of the hall. There is a keyboard pad there, the same one Abigail punched her passcode in earlier. And back to Riley in the van, watching time tick down. Back to Ben.
Seconds.
Back to Ben, he pulls at what looks like a thin slide viewer out of his jacket pocket. He holds it over the keypad and switches on its blue light. Through the viewer glass, certain letters on the keypad glow with ultraviolet fingerprints. Ben reads them.
AEFGLORVY.
Back in the van, Riley keys the letters into an anagram generator on his computer. The results scroll across the screen. A glove... yeah, go ahead.
A glove fry, a berry gulf, Fargo, levy, gravy flow, valley frog. Any of these make any sense?
Ben stares at the letters and realizes.
Valley Forge. She pressed L and E twice.
He dons a white glove and punches in the code. Valley Forge. A beat, then the vault room door unlocks with a series of clunks. And back at the stairwell at night, sweating, Shaw is now cutting through a second security door with thematic lance.
How much time?
Ian checks his watch.
We're right on schedule.
Back in the vault room, Ben jumps onto the vault. The scissor jack is completely retracted and the vault doors are starting to close. No time to hesitate. Ben lifts out the Declaration of Independence and its thermopane case out of the vault just as the steel doors close with a loud thunk. Back to the security station, the surveillance bay is aglow with flashing lights as the system runs through its automatic checks. All the surveillance screens are still snow. Back in the stairwell, Shaw finishes cutting through. Back in the corridor, carrying the declaration in its case, Ben races back into the elevator. He pushes the call button just as the stairwell access door opens, and through it emerges Ian, Shaw, Powell, and Shippen. They're surprised to see Ben's not only alive, but he's got their quarry.
He's alive.
Not for long.
Shaw opens fire on Ben with an automatic gun silencer. Ben whips the Declaration of Independence around. He uses it as a shield and protects himself. The Declaration of Independence is absolutely riddled with bullets. Blam, blam, blam. And the bullets bounce off the Declaration of Independence thermopane case, which is made of bulletproof glass. The force of the bullets knocks Ben into the elevator as it dings open. Ian suddenly grabs Shaw's arm. His shots go astray, raking in the metal elevator doors, which finally close.
What's the matter with you? You'll damage the map.
Ben falls inside and bangs on the call button panel. Intercut with Riley in the van. He's heard the commotion.
Ben? Ben!
I got it.
We can now hear sirens approaching.
You better hurry.
Back to Ben in the elevator. He sets the case down and pulls out 2 droppers of Visine out of his pants pockets.
Better not leave.
Ben takes one of the droppers and carefully drops a single drop on each of the floor bolts in the corners of the Declaration of Independence case. Ben then grabs the second dropper of Visine and drops a second set of drops on the bolts. When the 2 drops of liquid combine, the bolts begin to smoke and smolder. Ben checks the elevator panel and the elevator ascends.
Come on.
Back in the stairwell, Ian and his men charge back up the stairs, and they burst into the empty corridor. Back in the elevator, smoldering dissipates, and Ben pulls the case apart. The argon gas vents from the interior with a hiss whoosh. Ben gingerly lifts the precious document out, quickly rolls it up, and pulls it in a heavy-duty clear plastic cylindrical baggie out of his jacket pocket, and carefully slips the document into the baggie. Back at the security station, Woodruff watches as one by one the monitors on the surveillance space start coming back up online.
Damn it, what happened to Ferguson?
Back in the foyer, the elevator dings open and Ben steps out. Into the north foyer, Ben rounds the corner and casually melts into the crowd. He heads for the exit, but just a few yards away is Abigail. Ben ducks into the gift shop. Gala guests peruse souvenirs. Head down, Ben watches as Abigail passes by outside the gift shop window. He waits a beat and then moves to the exit, but he's stopped by.
Hey, sir.
Ben looks up and the clerk is working the register towards him.
You trying to steal that?
Ben looks down and realizes the Declaration of Independence is poking out of his jacket. He's busted. Then he notices he's standing next to a bin filled with actual size Declaration of Independence reproductions, each one wrapped in heavy plastic just like the real one.
It's $35.
$35, just a piece of paper.
He digs into his pockets and comes up with several rumpled bills and coins. He quickly counts them out, but
I only have $32.57.
We take ATM and credit cards.
Interior National Archives, Service Corridor. Guards search the corridor but find no sign of Ferguson. Back at the security station.
I can't find Ferguson. This isn't good.
Cut to quick shots, rapid fire. We follow the guard's feet, sprinting down the inner corridor. A guard punches his passcode into the vault keypad. The guard pushes open the vault door in the foyer. Ben pushes by the gas almost to the exit in the security station. Woodruff turns the key on the console and prays.
Please be there. Please, God, let it be there.
Back into the archives night, carrying a souvenir, Ben hurries down the sidewalk in front of the National Archives. Hey! Abigail catches up to him, but Ben keeps moving. What's that?
That's what?
Back at the service entrance, Ian and his men burst out the back service room exit. Back at the vault room, the vault's steel doors slide open, revealing bad news. The Declaration of Independence is gone! The National Archives, the security station. Night. Woodruff sees the empty vault on the surveillance screen. He hits the alarm and gets his radio.
Code red. We have a break-in, lock-in down. Nobody leaves the building.
Woodruff looks around. He can't believe this is happening.
Somebody get the FBI on the phone now.
Please. Abigail follows Ben as he hurries across the street. What's that in your hand?
Souvenir. Got it at the gift shop.
They reach the van where Riley waits, engine running.
Let's go!
Just then, the National Archives alarm sound. Abigail's face falls. She knows what Ben has done. You didn't.
You wouldn't understand.
Police! Ooh, I shouldn't yell that too loud with the window open. Ben panics, grabs her, covers her mouth, but she bites him, and he comes up with the Declaration of Independence. Exterior National Archives service entrance night. As Ian with his men climb into their catering truck, Ian sees Ben standing across the street with Abigail, who is holding the Declaration of Independence. On Constitution Avenue, Abigail looks at the rolled up parchment, incredulous.
Careful with that.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Riley
god.
sees.
Oh.
Look, you're making a big mistake.
You weren't protecting it. You're stealing it.
Listen, there are some very bad people who don't care about the Declaration of Independence, people who only see it as a map.
God, you're pathetic. With that, she turns and starts crossing the street with the Declaration of Independence in her hand. Ben hurries to get into the van.
Come on, let's go.
Riley watches Abigail leaving with the Declaration.
But you can't just let her go.
Yes, we can.
Suddenly, the catering truck barrels down on Abigail in the middle of the street. She sidesteps out of its way, but screeches to a stop in front of her, blocking her path. Ben sees the truck's driver. It's Shippen.
Oh, no.
The trunk's back doors burst open, and Ian, Shaw, and Powell jump out the swarm. Abigail. She struggles like a wildcat. Ben moves to help her, but Powell opens fire on him, sending Ben diving for the cover behind the van. Interior of the van night. Riley ducks as the van is raked with bullets. The van's windows shatter, and glass shards pepper the interior. Back on the Constitution Avenue, Ian and Shaw throw Abigail into the back of the truck. Powell jumps into the cab, and the truck peels out. Ben jumps in, and Riley slams it into gear. Exterior Constitution Avenue night. The catering truck wheels through traffic. A beat behind the van blows through red light and flies after it. Interior catering truck moving night. Abigail holds the Declaration of Independence. Ian holds out his hand.
Give it to me.
Over my dead body. Exterior Constitution Avenue night. The catering truck turns hard and slews onto 3rd Street. A dozen police cars speed by them, going the other way, towards the National Archives. A truck veers suddenly, sending Abigail on her ass. Ian snatches the Declaration of Independence out of her hands as she stumbles. Back out on 3rd Street, a scenic street, if anyone had time to look. The U.S. Capitol on one side and the Washington Monument on the other. The van gains on the catering truck, but Powell leans out the passenger side window and opens fire. Back in the van, Ben and Riley duck as the front windshield explodes. Back on 3rd Street, the van falls back. Interior of the catering truck. Abigail watches helplessly as Ian holds the Declaration of Independence. Please, be careful with that. Ian ignores her, slips the document from its cover.
What do we do with her?
Ian starts unrolling the document, but doesn't look up.
No witnesses.
Shaw turns his gun on Abigail. Abigail's eyes search the truck, looking for a way out. Back in the moving van night, Riley pulls alongside the driver's side of the catering truck, then yanks the wheel hard. On the freeway on-ramp, the van slams into the catering truck just as Shaw cocks his gun and squeezes the trigger, but the truck shakes violently on impact, sending Shaw on his ass. Abigail scrabbles to the truck's back doors, but they're latched shut. Shaw moves to finish her off, but just then Ian notices something at the document, makes him go.
Wait.
Ian looks up, then turns the document to Abigail.
What the hell is this?
Abigail looks at the document and is just as surprised as Ian. Stamped on the document is price tag. She grins. A souvenir. Exterior 395 night. Van slaloms. Traffic pulls alongside the truck. Interior the catering truck. Ian looks at Abigail, who stands by the truck's back doors.
Who are you?
Abigail talks. She reaches behind her back and surreptitiously unlatches the door latch. I'm Dr. Abigail Chase, Executive Custodian of the Charters of Freedom for the National Archives. Back in the van, Ben moves to the back of the van and slides open the van's side door. Interior catering truck cab moving. Shippen sees Ben in the van and whips the steering wheel. Back on the interstate, the catering truck yaws into the van. Abigail finally manages to unlatch the latch. Who are you? Just then, the truck is rocked by as it slams into the van. Ian and Shaw are buried by a cascade of chafing dishes. The truck's back doors swing open wildly, and Abigail just manages to grab the latch as she arcs out into traffic. A tour bus motors along in the heavy DC traffic, passing the Jefferson Memorial, beautifully lit at night. Back at the tour bus, a group of tourists crane their necks out their windows as the tour guide zealously describes the sights.
All right, my Minority Report fans over here, and over to your right, you can see the Jefferson Memorial. Who can tell me what important document Thomas Jefferson authored?
Nobody answered, because America's dumb. Instead, they're all glued to the action. Abigail dangles off the door, both hands gripping at the latch. Back in the van moving, Riley maneuvers the van to the back of the catering truck. Ben holds the door frame, reaches out to Abigail.
Grab my hand.
Holding on for dear life, she looks at Ben like he's crazy. With what? Back in the van moving, Riley fights the wheel holding steady, looks ahead to see a traffic jam. No! Total gridlock. A sea of red brake lights.
Hurry!
Ben reaches for Abigail.
Come on.
Abigail summons up her courage, lets go of one hand and swings toward Ben. Their fingers almost touch, but then there's no more room to go. Riley brakes. The van and Ben suddenly decelerate away from Abigail, who almost falls. The catering truck cab moving. The van falls back and Shippen looks ahead to see why. Parked cars locked on traffic. Shippen slams on the brakes. The catering truck tires burn rubber. Sudden stop sends Ian and Shaw's asses over elbows. I like that phrase. Truck doors swing Abigail back inside, then close behind her. Abigail's now back in the truck with the front of the angry firing squad. Shaw turns his gun on her, but Ben hurries back to the catering truck and yanks the handle just as Shaw shoots, but Abigail disappears as the truck door swings open again. The errant bullets blow out the windshield in an oncoming tanker truck. The tanker truck driver yanks the wheels hard and slams on his brake. The tanker truck jackknifes. Ian and Shaw watch in horror as the jackknife tanker truck slews uncontrollably toward them. They dive out of the truck. Shippen lays on his horn, not seeing what Powell is seeing in his rearview mirror, a runaway juggernaut. Back on the interstate, Powell and other motorists scramble out of their cars, ducking and diving out of the way of the tanker truck, which Shippen finally sees. But too late. That's what you get for being a bad guy. The tanker truck crashes into the back of the catering truck. Wham! Smash! Crunch! Each car in the catering truck plows into the car in front of it. Metal crumbles and glass shatters, tires and pop. Ian, Shaw, and Powell come up from the smoking mayhem. Ian looks down at the shoulder where he sees Ben and Riley's van blow past the pile. Van pulls off an off ramp and disappears.
Piss.
This is a lot of talking. Riley drives pedal to metal. Ben sits back with a frustrated Abigail.
You all right?
No, I'm not all right. Where's the Declaration of Independence? She immediately starts searching the van. Riley glances in the rearview mirror and sees her searching the van.
What do you mean, where is it? You had it.
I didn't have it. He gave me a fake.
You did? Then why did we go after her?
Ben? I thought your name was Paul.
I had to lie. My real name is Ben Gates, Benjamin Franklin Gates.
I'm supposed to believe that.
Being named after one of America's founding fathers is sort of like a tradition in my family.
An obsession, actually.
Where is the real Declaration of Independence?
Don't worry, it's safe.
So you did steal it.
I hadn't, those men would have.
Give it to me. I have to return it.
Can't let you do that. That guy who tried to kill you will just come after it again.
We'll warn the authorities. They'll protect it.
Like they did tonight?
Back in the National Archives, the building is now cordoned off and swarming with police. In the foyer, men and women in FBI blazers enter with Woodruff. Leading the group is Sandusky, 40, solidly built, a complete pro.
What are we dealing with? A break-in.
Back in the Rotunda, the detained guests wait impatiently at the Rotunda. Sandusky and his team enters to take charge of the room.
All right. My name is Sandusky. I'm an agent in charge. I want this building cleared and sealed off. Security clearance only.
Sandusky turns to a female agent, Agent Dawes.
A complete list of names of everyone on tonight's guest list and their dates. Find out who's not here.
Agent Dawes peels off and Sandusky turns to Agent Johnson.
The vault and lobby security logs and all the surveillance tapes for the last 30 days.
Sorry. Agent Johnson nods and peels off, and Sandusky turns to two more agents, Colfax and Hendricks.
The care is underground parking garage. Find any not accounted for.
Colfax and Hendricks leave, and Sandusky turns to Woodruff.
I want the names and shift schedules of everybody with access to the building, from the janitors to the curator. Yes, sir. Now, Mr. Woodruff, if you can please tell me what exactly was taken.
Woodruff gulps and can barely choke out the words. Riley pulls onto back into the van at night. Riley pulls onto the highway. There's no map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
Ever heard of the Templar Knights?
They were a military order of the Catholic Church dissolved by the Pope in the 14th century.
After King Philip of France had them all burned at the stake.
That's only a legend.
The Templar Knights are what legends are made of, noble men with no allegiance to any state or ruler. Their cause was to protect innocent people from tyrannical rulers and oppression. In 1307, they broke into a Visigothic stronghold in Languedoc, France, and found a treasure so massive it took 6 days to exhume. They had taken a vow of poverty and swore to protect the treasure, using it only for the noblest purpose. King Philip wanted the treasure, if he could only find it. He had the knights arrested and tortured, but none ever confessed to the treasure's whereabouts. The few knights who'd evaded capture hid the treasure for almost 200 years, then finally brought it to the one place where there were no kings and no religious persecution, the New World. Christopher Columbus, not so coincidentally, was a descendant of the knights.
What did the Templar Knights have to do with the Declaration? Ben pulls a $1 bill out of his pocket and points to the symbols on the back.
The all-seeing eye, the unfinished pyramid. These are the marks of the Templar. Our founding fathers were descendants of the knights. They put the map on the back.
This is crazy. I'm calling the police. Stop the car. But Riley doesn't slow down. You wish to add kidnapping to your list of federal offenses?
Get out whenever you want.
Abigail glances out the window. They're going about 70. Fine, I will. She reaches for the door handle.
You still want to hear the riddle about the pipe? The legend writ, that staying affected, the key in silence undetected. 55 an iron pin, Mr. Matlack can't offend.
Timothy Matlack, the calligrapher of the Declaration of Independence?
Pipe came from Mount Vernon.
If that's true, the pipe is a major historical find.
Yeah, well, Ian already has it, and he'll take the Declaration too if we don't protect it.
How do I know you're not lying?
You look at the back.
All right, but if there's nothing on the back, you're turning yourselves in.
Deal. Because if there's nothing on the back, the Declaration's safe.
Why there's such a delay. There we go. Interior National Archives, Service Corridor Night. 2 EMTs work on Guard Ferguson, who's conscious now. He sits propped up against the wall, talking to Agent Dawes.
The only thing I remember is the smell of my hair burning.
On Sandusky, who approaches. Agent Dawes nods to Guard Ferguson, then joins Sandusky down the hall. They got him with a taser gun at the service entrance.
Did he see the shooter? Anything?
Interior of the National Archives Inner Corridor. FBI forensics technicians work the crime scene, studying the bullet casings and dusting for fingerprints. Sandusky moves down the corridor with Dr. Herbert and Woodruff.
Rounds were fired and nobody heard anything.
The vault corridor is lined with 3 feet of steel and concrete.
Sandusky studies the walls, pocked with bullet holes.
We get a description from the guards.
Which guards?
The guards that were fired upon.
There were no guards on patrol down here.
Sandusky moves to the elevator, which is also bullet-riddled.
Then who were the thieves shooting at?
Just then, Agent Colfax calls from the stalled elevator.
Found it.
Sandusky, Woodruff, and Herbert moved to the elevator. Agent Hendricks stands above the elevator car in the shaft. He hands the empty thermopane display case down to Agent Colfax from its hiding place.
Looks like they used a dibasic acid to dissolve the bolts.
Dr. Herbert looks broken up. He just might cry.
Got a copy of the Declaration in place before opening tomorrow?
Yes, absolutely.
No word goes to the public. Everything is to appear normal.
Dr. Herbert does his best to compose himself.
Who would do such a thing?
Anti-government terrorists.
Just then, Agent Johnson steps up.
Computerized security records indicate that a Dr. Abigail Chase accessed the vault at 9:32 p.m. tonight.
Dr. Chase? Impossible. I was with her at that time.
Agent Johnson shows Sandusky a copy of Abigail's ID.
Who is she?
The Charters of Freedom Custodian.
The one in charge of the Declaration of Independence.
Where is she? Let's talk to her.
Unaccounted for, sir.
Dr. Herbert is upset by the news. Now Agent Dawes approaches carrying a computer printout. A man named Benjamin Gates used his credit card in the gift shop at 9:39 p.m. He wasn't on the guest list. We got an address from the credit card company.
Gift shops. What the hell did this guy buy?
Back in the movie van at night, Ben roots around under the seat, comes up with a big gulp cup, tosses it aside, finally comes up with a cardboard mailing tube. He peels off an old cheeseburger wrapper stuck to it, ew, and then hands it to Abigail.
Here.
Abigail opens the tube and partially pulls out the document. The aged parchment is clearly visible through the plastic. She's awestruck. You are not to touch this ever again. She slips the document back inside the tube.
Fine by me. I never wanted to touch it in the first place.
You don't deserve to touch it.
Let's just look at the map. That was nobody that way. Nobody will ever have to touch it again.
Not here.
What do you mean not here?
In the back of a van. We'll need chemicals, a controlled environment, a clean room with particulate air filtration, ESD attire. I hope you all have that. Cut to a door bursts open and the SWAT team swarms in, all in black bulletproof gear, helmets, lights, guns. We widen to reveal that we're in Ben's apartment. Shrouds of plastic hang over the window. Beams of light cut through the darkness as the team moves swiftly through the room. A beat, then SWAT team member calls out.
Interior secure.
Apartment building corridor night. Sandusky and his team move down the hallway. Agent Dawes reads from the printout. Ben Franklin Gates used his visa on a one-way plane ticket from Toronto to D.C. 2 days ago after spending 7 months unaccounted for. Before that, his paper trails got him all over the place. Boston, France, Boston, Greenland.
The landlady didn't want to say much about him, only that he's rarely here, that he's very nice, and that he always pays his rent, sometimes months in advance.
They come to a room cordoned off and guarded by police.
Wait till you see this.
Interior Ben's loft apartment. Sandusky and his team enter the room and stop suddenly at what they see. We reverse to find we're in Ben's apartment and everything is now all lined in plastic. Every square inch of the room, windows, walls, carpet, television, all of the furniture. A chemistry set sits on the dresser. A box of blue ESD booties sit near the door. The only other thing not covered is a Xerox copier collection of old handwritten letters. Agent Dawes dons a pair of gloves and picks them up and studies the letters. Letters to the editor of the New England Courant, written in 1722. They're all from the same person. Your humble servant, Silence Dogood. Hendricks studies the blue booties by the door.
What's this guy up to?
Profilers say we're looking at an adult male, a loner, has a high IQ but has never been able to hold down a job. He's socially inept, has probably written numerous letters to the White House expressing anti-government sentiments. We're expecting him to contact us shortly with ransom demands.
Sandusky eyes the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, which is covered in clear plastic.
I don't think he's going to be calling with any ransom demands.
A bottle of Sam Adams beer is slammed down onto a table. We ride to reveal interior the Hawk and Dove restaurant. Powell and Shaw sit with Ian, who studies the pipe.
Where do you think they went?
No response. Ian turns the pipe over and looks to a cocktail napkin on which he's written the riddle. On the napkin, the words legend and key are underlined, along with undetected and silence.
That bastard, he did know something he wasn't telling me. Look at this. Legend and key are not the same thing. Legend means map. Key means key.
The key to the treasure?
During the war, generals used secret codes and ciphers to disguise their communications. To decode the cipher, the recipient needed the key, like a book or an old letter. The key inside is silence undetected. You know why silence is capitalized?
Powell and Shaw exchange a look, then hazard a guess.
Because it's important.
Because it's a name.
Back in the van, Ben and Abigail look ahead to see a sea of police and FBI in the parking lot of Ben's apartment building.
What do we do now?
Turn yourselves in?
Go to Hillcrest.
We can't go there.
Where?
We need the key to the cipher. I had copies. He has the originals.
Who?
He hates you. He'll turn you in.
Whoever it is, he sounds like a good man. Exterior Hillcrest neighborhood night. Oak trees line the street. Colonial with Colonial and Queen Anne homes. Inside one colonial home, Ben knocks on the door and waits with Riley and Abigail. A beat. Then a 60-year-old graying man opens the door. He takes one look at them, then slams the door. Riley shrugs.
I don't think you recognize me.
I think he's still mad at you for not going to medical school.
Dad, open the door. I need your help.
The man opens the door again. We realize now he's Patrick Gates, Ben's father. He looks at his son, then to Abigail.
Don't tell me. You got a pregnant.
No.
I look pregnant?
I need the Silence Do-Good letters.
Do you have the Silence Do-Good letters?
Our great-great-great-great-grandfather, George Washington Gates, found a few hidden in an old desk he bought at an auction. No one ever understood their meaning until we found the pipe.
This better not involve Charlotte.
My days of looking for Charlotte are over, I swear.
Telling the truth, Mr. Gates.
Patrick smiles smug as he opens the door to let them in.
I knew it. I knew there was no Charlotte. I told you so.
Yeah, let's not do the I told you so thing.
I think after all these years, I'm entitled to a little I told you so. I told you. I told your grandpa. I told your mother. You people waste your lives chasing something that doesn't exist.
All right, Dad, you asked for it. Do you really want to know? I found Charlotte. That's right. I really found her.
That stops Patrick. He looks to Abigail. I'm not Charlotte. My name is Abigail, Dr. Abigail Chase.
Charlotte was a ship.
I know. She left port from Maine, 1779. I wasted 7 years searching the coast of France.
You never made it to France. I found the ship's log of the HMS Erebus, a ship that left port 2 days before the Charlotte. The captain wrote that his ship barely survived a bad southeaster, which I figured must have blown the Charlotte off course.
That stops Patrick. His eyes flash with excitement.
How far off course?
Interior hotel suite night. Ian works on his laptop while Powell and Shaw eat room service food. His computer beeps.
Silence Do-Good. Here she is.
On the computer screen are the search results for Silence and Declaration of Independence. We notice the same Silence Do-Good many times.
Who is it?
We push it on the screen, then pull out as we hear Agent Johnson's voice take over the explanation.
Silence Do-Good, a.k.a. Benjamin Franklin.
We pull back and realize that we have transitioned to exterior apartment building parking lot. Sandusky stands with his team in the makeshift command post. The FBI has just run the same Google search. Agent Johnson reads from his laptop screen.
Ben Franklin was 15 years old, apprenticing for his brother James's newspaper when he secretly wrote 14 letters to the editor of the Courant using the pen name Silence Do-Good, a middle-aged widow wife of a minister. She wrote about colonial life, gained quite a following, and even obtained proposals of marriage.
Sandusky regards the copied letters from Ben's apartment.
These letters were written by Benjamin Franklin.
Now Colfax steps up with a sheet of paper.
Gift shop clerk ID'd Gates on the surveillance tapes from earlier in the evening.
Sandusky studies Ben's photo. Closing on the picture, grainy surveillance image of Ben in his tuxedo as he passes through security checkpoint upon entering the National Archives Gala. Sandusky hands the photo back to Colfax.
Releases picture to the press. Dr. Chase too. Someone bound to spot them.
Back in the Colonial Homes dining room, Ben clears the dining room table. Abigail helps, but her eyes search the room and stops on a phone, but it's too close to Ben to get to it. Where's the bathroom?
Down the hall, first door on the right.
Abigail disappears into the hall. Back in the hall, Abigail moves down the hall and finds the bathroom. Directly across the hall is a study. Abigail glances back towards the living room and ducks into the study. Inside the study, packed with books on shelves and in piles, Abigail moves to a desk and finds a phone cradle. But no fun. She notices a collection of framed buttons hanging on the wall. Close in on the framed buttons. It's a silver-plated George Washington inaugural button. There's a note that said, "Dad, found this in a backyard in Maryland. Love, Ben."
Looking for this?
Abigail turns back startled. She sees the phone in Ben's hand.
Thought we had a deal.
Dr. Herbert would be worried about me.
You guys dating?
Yes, and he's going to kill you.
I figured. You look like you're...
You have no idea what my type is.
I know you don't like treasure hunters.
I like men I can trust. Ben considers that and then hands her the phone and leaves. Abigail looks at the phone in her hands, surprised. Back in the dining room, Abigail emerges from the hallway with the phone to find Ben standing there. Why did you come after me? You had the Declaration of Independence. You could have just gotten away.
Why didn't you call your boyfriend?
He's not my boyfriend.
I parked the van around back.
Ben hands Abigail the gloves. She dons them and then opens the tube. They all look at each other for a beat. Then she carefully slips the Declaration of Independence out of the tube. The document practically glows with history. Glows with history. She catches her breath, mesmerized by its power, then gingerly unrolls this document. They are all awestruck. Now Patrick enters with a tray of tea. He goes to set it on the table right on the Declaration of Independence, but Quinn quickly intercepts with the tray.
Whoa, not there.
Ben grabs the tray from his dad and sets it on the buffet. Now Patrick notices the ancient parchment paper on the table.
Oh, where'd you get that? Looks old.
A little over 200 years.
Wow. You sure?
Pretty sure.
What is it?
Just a map.
I don't see anything.
He reaches to turn the parchment over, but Ben stops him.
This side. It's invisible ink.
Oh, so put it in the oven.
No!
Why not? Ferrous sulfate inks can only be brought out with heat.
But it will damage the...
Parchment. She's right. It's very old. We can't risk compromising the map.
You need a regent.
I know.
Ben grabs a slice of lemon off the tea tray.
Just the upper right-hand corner.
I know.
If there indeed is a secret message, it will be marked with a symbol there first.
I know.
He brushes the lemon over the corner of the parchment, and they all eagerly wait for it to reveal anything. Nothing. Riley looks hard at the parchment, ready to jump off the highest building.
Nothing?
You sure it's this side?
Needs heat.
With that, Ben leads and breathes on the parchment. As if by magic, the puff of warm air breath reveals a series of numbers. They appear briefly, flicker, and then disappear. But everyone in the room sees them. A wash of silence overcomes them. Then, we need more heat. Sorry, my phone turned on. Cut to the close on a hairdryer blowing on a low setting on the parchment. As it does, a long series of faded numbers slowly emerge. 6, 14, 7, 4, 54, 4, 10, 1, 9. Oh my God.
Series of numbers. 3%.
It's an Ottendorf cipher.
Cipher.
George Washington and the Marquis de Lafayette used them to pass secret messages from the front lines.
Ah.
The first number indicates the page is the key. In this case, the set of silent student letters. The second number in the cipher is the line on that page, and the third is the word on that line.
Where's the map with the X?
There's never a map with an X.
Then who started that legend?
This is amazing.
Dad, where are the letters? We need the letters.
When you left, I got rid of everything.
As they talk, Abigail picks up the document and holds it up to the chandelier for a closer inspection.
Dad, where are they?
I donated them.
Hope you got a big tax write-off.
Who did you give them to?
There's only one place for them.
You gave them to the Ben Franklin Museum.
It's completed their collection.
This is a tremendous discovery. All this time, no one knew there was something on the back.
Back of what?
Patrick peeks at the front of the document and his face falls and now sees what's on the other side of the parchment. It starts with, in Congress, July 4th, 1776.
Holy shit.
I know.
That's the...
I know.
Patrick digests that, about to blow a gasket. Then,
It's brilliant. Putting the map on the back of an important document guaranteed the map's survival.
I know.
Guys,
Riley's attention is drawn to the television in the den. On the screen is the grainy surveillance picture of Ben, captioned with his name. Ben goes to the television and turns it up.
For questioning in connection with an attempt robbery at the National Archives tonight, authorities are also looking for this woman.
On the screen is a picture of Abigail, also appears. Abigail gasps.
Dr. Abigail Chase, a museum employee who has been reported as missing. Please do not say whether Dr. Chase is suspected or a witness, only that she is the only National Archives employee not currently accounted for.
The thought of her once being wanted almost makes Abigail faint. We should turn ourselves in. We have evidence now.
The FBI will just think I put those numbers on the back. They'll put me in jail, the Declaration back on display, and Ian will just come after it again.
He's right. The Declaration of Independence will never be safe.
So now what? Now what?
Find that treasure.
Ben looks to his dad, surprised. It's the first time he's seen a glimmer of approval in his dad's face in a long time. We need to change our clothes. Back in the neighborhood, Hillcrest neighborhood, night. A swarm of police cars and government sedans sit parked on the driveway and street outside Patrick's home. Colonial home dining room night. Sandusky's team sweeps the house. Patrick sits calmly at the table as Sandusky scrutinizes the tea service.
My son told me to call you. Said otherwise I'd be aiding and abetting.
Sandusky looks to Agent Dawes, who reads from a dossier. Benjamin Franklin Gates graduated with honors from Dartmouth with a PhD in American history. Spent his summers working on a deep sea salvage expeditions.
He was looking for Charlotte.
A girl?
A quest.
Oh God, another crazy.
Sir, did your son say where he was going?
No, he never actually said.
Your son's in a lot of trouble, Mr. Gates. He's stolen a national treasure.
Sometimes a man has to do something wrong in order to do something right.
And what would that right thing be?
Patrick reaches for something in his pocket and, in an instant, every Fed, except Sandusky, has their gun out and train on Patrick, who freezes. Sandusky sighs.
Guys, he's going for his wallet.
The agents holster their sidearms, and Patrick pulls out his wallet, takes out a $1 bill, and lays it on the table.
Have you ever heard of the lost treasure of the Templar Knights?
Sandusky and his team of agents exit the house. As they walk, Sandusky studies the $1 bill.
A map on the back of the Declaration of Independence? Insanity obviously runs in the family.
Let's hope we recover the Declaration before he goes into Endgame.
God love you, Jeremy.
Whether or not there's a treasure map, Gates is the only one after it. Mm-hmm.
The gunfire outside the vault room. What's that, Sandusky?
Someone was shooting at Gates. Someone else who knew about the map.
Sandusky finally pockets the $1 bill.
Ben Gates had copies of the silenced do-good letters at his apartment. He needed them for something. Let's find out where the originals are.
Independence National Historic Park. Revolutionary War soldiers armed with muskets fire a volley of shots at a line of redcoats. Boom, boom, boom! Several British fall. As we widen to reveal, we're watching a reenactment of a revolutionary battle. Horses, cannons, drums, gunfire. We move through a crowd of tourists which stands on the sidelines and come to Washington Square, where we mock up of a Continental Army encampment that has been set up for the show. Standing between the tents, Ben and Abigail survey the scene. He's taking too long. God, he's been caught.
We're not looking for Riley, it's us. He's fine.
Cut to, closing on a 12-year-old boy's face pressed against some glass. We widen to see Benjamin Franklin Museum Day. The boy is looking through exhibit glass at a collection of Franklin inventions and artifacts. A glass harmonica, a Franklin stove, and many handwritten letters. As the boy studies the letters, we notice some of Sandusky's team are here, eyeing the crowd. Interior the Ben Franklin Museum office. A museum of curator stands with Sandusky and Agent Dawes. He studies a photocopy of Ben Gates' driver's license picture.
We're expecting him to come here.
I'm afraid you must be mistaken. The Gates
curator-
family donated many of the silenced do-good letters to us. Fascinating story how they came to have them. In fact, goes all the way back to President Jackson.
The boy finally finishes reading the letters and exits. Exterior 4th Street Day. The boy exits the museum, passing an actor dressed like Benjamin Franklin himself, spouting aphorisms to a passerby. The boy crosses to the cobblestone street and goes to Riley, sitting at a bus stop and working on a Gettysburg Times crossword puzzle. He looks up.
And
Sure. Fourth letter, 22nd line.
third word, and
Good. Thanks.
Riley hands him a $5 bill, then jots down and under the numbers 4223. On his crossword, we see Riley's written words under the corresponding codes for the declaration. So far it reads, "The trove unfolds for he who tolls pass and..." Back inside the National Historic Park, another line of redcoats falls to the cannon fire. Boom, boom! The crowd cheers while Abigail grows increasingly anxious. I can't take this anymore.
No, it's all wrong. We lost this battle and every other in Philadelphia.
Abigail regards him. That's not what she meant, but he continues on his tangent.
Most people don't realize George Washington was a rather poor military tactician, and that it was really Benedict Arnold who won the war for us with his victory in the Battle of Saratoga, which finally earned the Continental Army the support of France. What?
Nothing. I just thought I was the only one obsessed with meaningless historical trivia.
No such thing. Sometimes.
As he talks, Abigail spots something over his shoulder, Ian and Shaw moving through the crowd towards them.
Littlest things matter the most.
Without warning, Abigail grabs Ben and pulls him in for a passionate kiss. Ben's surprised, but goes with it until Abigail just suddenly pulls out of the kiss. Ian's here. She motions with her eyes, and then bends follow to see Ian and Shaw pushing through the crowd.
Must have figured out what silence meant, which means he's going to the museum.
Ben moves to go, but Abigail grabs him. I just want you to know that kiss meant nothing. It was only doing it to hide us.
History remembers what it wants to remember.
And with that, Ben and Abigail follow Ian and Shaw. Exterior 4th Street Day, crowded with tourists. Ian and Shaw move through the throng. They come to corner. Up ahead is Ben Franklin Museum. In the front, there are several federal agents. Ian stops, looks around, and crosses the street where Riley is waiting. Just then, however, a bus pulls up and stops right in front of Riley, blocking Ian's view. 4th Street Day. As people climb on and off the bus, Riley stares at something on the side of the bus. He smiles to himself.
I'm a genius.
Yes, you are. We reverse to see what he was seeing. Close in on the word pass, inscribed in iron. We pull back a little to see pass and stow. Then a little more to see the words inscribed are the literary bell, the literary bell, or the Liberty Bell, and an ad on the side of the bus, which now pulls away. A beat, and then Ian steps up with Shaw, but Riley's gone. Ian looks around and sees the trash can on top, the crossword puzzle. Shouldn't have left that there. That's glad they changed that. Inside the museum, Sandusky and Agent Dawes exit the office, and the other agents all signal him with nothing yet. Sandusky notices a woman who looks like a prostitute reading the do-good letters. God, I don't get it. Why would Gates want to steal something the family donated? But Sandusky isn't listening. He pulls away from his team to follow the prostitute who is now leaving. The prostitute crosses the street into the bus stop, but Riley's long gone. The prostitute looks around.
What are you looking for?
The prostitute sees the suit and immediately looks to run, but she's surrounded by the rest of Sandusky's team. This is a change.
Whoa, you're not in trouble. We're just looking for the same person.
Wow. That was weird. National Historic Park Day. Soldiers march to the beat of drums. It's like a song or something in fife commands. Smoke rises over the field from the cannon and musket fire. Riley moves down the line of Continental Army tips, oblivious to the melee in the background.
I'm a genius. I'm a genius.
Suddenly, someone grabs him and pulls him between the tents. Riley almost screams and then sees it's just Ben and Abigail.
Ian's here.
Doesn't matter. I got it. The trove unfolds for who tolls pass and... I didn't get the last word, but I figured it out.
Liberty Bell.
Liberty Bell.
How'd you know?
Tolls, pass, and stow. It's obvious.
It's not that obvious.
The prostitute sits on the bench surrounded by the FBI. I didn't cast a prostitute. All I know is the guy didn't just want his nothing for his money. Just a word.
What? Word.
Exterior Independence National Historic Park Day. Soldiers march forward, then stop. The actor playing George Washington rides a horse, commanding his troops. I don't think I did Washington either. Fire! The soldiers fire synchronized volleys. Boom, boom, boom. The British ranks thin, and the crowd goes wild, just like they did in the 1700s. Back on 4th Street, Agent Johnson sits in a parked sedan. Sandusky and the others wait by the open car door as Agent Johnson works on a laptop.
6,903 search hits for the words stow and Declaration of Independence. The top results being the 4th of July and the Liberty Bell.
The Liberty Bell.
2 foundry workers named John Pass and John Stowe cast the bell.
That's it. Let's go.
Exterior Independence National Historic Park Day. Ian and Shaw move through the park.
You're kidding, right?
I wish I were.
You meant we have to ring the Liberty Bell.
Back at the Liberty Bell Pavilion Day, crowded with tourists, a tour guide stands next to the famous bell, which is enclosed in a glass display case.
My West Wing fans over here, which hasn't been rung in over 150 years. It was in 1846 on George Washington, a birthday, that the final expansion of the crack occurred, retiring the Liberty Bell permanently.
Back at the pavilion, a long line of tourists snakes across the park plaza. Sandusky and his team move through the crowded plaza.
I want agents posted in the pavilion and surrounding plaza. As of right now, the Liberty Bell is in under around the clock guard.
Exactly. Do we think Gates is playing?
I don't know, but we've already lost one national treasure. I'll be damned if we're going to lose another.
Look how they keep putting National Treasure in there. Like, here's the title. Independence All Day across the park from the Liberty Bell Pavilion. Boom, boom, boom. A trapdoor in the belfry door is smashed open with the butt of the rifle. Then Ben, Abigail, and Riley climb up to the belfry's platform. From here, there's a panoramic view of Independence Park from Liberty Pavilion.
The Liberty Bell's not here. It's over there.
But the bell was here when the map was written.
It must be rung from here.
Okay, then we simulate it. We get the bell's exact size and and determine the tone it made.
E flat?
Perfect. We generate a church bell E flat note digital wave file. We get a couple of high excursion, low distortion speakers up here and plug our ears.
Well, what could ringing the bell possibly do?
Maybe some stone will magically crumble away, finally revealing the X that marks the spot.
Abigail looks to the street below, swarming with police. Well, one thing's for certain, it'll definitely alert everyone to our presence. Ben looks at her, realizing...
The man who rang the Liberty Bell when the Declaration of Independence was signed, who was he?
Andrew McNair? There used to be a plaque commemorating him up here.
Find it.
They all three immediately get on their hands and knees, searching for an old belfry floor. A beat, and then, ooh, here it is. Ben hurries to her, finds an old bronze plaque under layers of dirt. Ben rubs away the dirt with his hand. Close on the plaque, which is dedicated to Andrew McNair for tolling the bell on July 8th, 1776, proclaiming the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Member Lodge 43, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Ben reads the last line of the plaque.
Member Lodge 43. McNair was a Freemason.
Ben grabs the rifle and pries up the plaque with the bayonet. What are you doing?
The trove unfolds for he who tolls Pass and Stowe. The cipher was talking about McNair.
The plaque finally pops up underneath a small hole in the floorboards. Ben looks to them. They both see it.
Jesus.
Ben sticks his hand into the hole, a beat, and then Ben pulls out his hand, turns it over, opens his fist, revealing a pair of old bifocals. Riley clasps his hands together happily.
Okay. All right. Super. It's been so worth it. Can we talk about chairs now? Because I really need a pair of glasses.
Bifocals.
Abigail studies Ben, realizing Ben Franklin invented them.
And I'm sure he's been looking for this pair. Those founding fathers and their fraternity pranks.
Riley mimics an old man's voice.
Let's hide an old man's bifocal.
Here.
The map.
Here. Abigail slips the Declaration out of the musket barrel and then quickly unroll it as Riley continues his rant.
And then, because we have nothing better to do, put a secret message on the
The
back
treasure
of the
can be
Declaration of
seen.
Independence.
Ben dons the bifocals and looks at the Declaration. Well? Ben takes off the glasses and hands them to Abigail while she slips them on. Riley rattles on.
And let's crack the Liberty Bell, too. Hey, good idea. And funny.
Abigail looks at the Declaration. What she sees takes her breath away. Now Riley notices the look on her face.
What?
Abigail stares at the Declaration as if in a trance.
What?
Abigail slowly looks to Ben in disbelief. He smiles, but Riley looks at them both impatient.
What? Another riddle? What do we have to do now? TP the White House?
That would have been an interesting turn. Ben takes the glass off Abigail's face and he hands them to Riley, who puts them on as we go to his POV. Close in on the back of the Declaration of Independence as the lenses come into view. The blank parchment comes alive. A 3D image magically appears, rising out of various shades of parchment colors, beiges and tans, a prism, a magic eye effect. An 18th century church and cemetery. An X marks the spot in the field of graves. A map is dated August 17th, 1776.
I knew it. There it is. X marks the spot. That's what I've been talking about.
Ben takes the bifocals from Riley, studies the map again.
That's Trinity Church.
The original Trinity Church burnt down just 2 months after the Declaration of Independence was signed.
I don't think that was a coincidence.
Wow. In Liberty Bell Pavilion Day, Powell exits the pavilion and rejoins Ian and Shaw in the plaza. Right behind them is Independence Hall.
They're not inside.
They're here somewhere.
Ian looks around and realizes he looks up to the belfry. Abigail rolls up the Declaration of Independence and slips it into its cover. Just then we hear somebody coming up the steps.
It's got me.
Ben looks down to the belfry just as Ian looks up from the plaza below. Their eyes connect.
Ian.
Riley pulls open the trapdoor and sees Powell starting up the stairs. Riley slams the trapdoor shut. Interior stairwell day. Powell tries to push open the belfry's trapdoor, but inside the belfry, Riley is standing on the trapdoor. He yells to Ben.
Go!
Ben and Abigail climb out of the belfry, and Riley shoves the musket barrel through an iron ring latch on the trapdoor. Back in the stairwell, Powell shoots up to the trapdoor. Blam, blam, blam. The Independence Hall belfry day. Riley tap dances as gun fired, chews up the floorboards at his feet, wood splinters, and pops. Independence Hall clock tower parapet day. Ben and Abigail peer over the edge as it's a 20-foot drop to the roof. Ben looks around the other options. Abigail hands him the Declaration of Independence.
What are you doing?
I don't want to be responsible for bending it. With that, she turns and jumps. She lands hard on the rock and tar paper roof below, but then looks up at Ben, who's a little awestruck by her. He tosses the Declaration down to her and then jumps too. Closing on the iron latch as boom, gunfire blows it out. Back in the belfry, Powell bursts up through the trapdoor and into the belfry and hurries to the edge. He sees Ben and Abigail below. Down at Independence Hall on the roof, Ben grabs Abigail and lunges out of the way as the roof is raked with gunfire. They land hard on the slanted part of the roof. The force knocks the Declaration of Independence from Abigail's grip. Bullets pock the shingles in their wake, barely missing the Declaration as it rolls down the incline. Back in the belfry, Powell chases them with gunfire, then suddenly Riley kips down from the outside of the belfry's archway and kicks Powell in the face. Go, Riley. Powell staggers back and then charges Riley, slamming him into the roof. Independence Hall roof day. Ben and Abigail slide out of control down the incline. Ben gets a foothold, throws out his hand, just catching the Declaration of Independence inches from the edge. But Abigail isn't so lucky. She's out of his reach. She tumbles off the ledge and she screams. Back in the belfry, Powell whip kicks Riley in the chain. He stumbles backwards, falls through the trapdoor, grabbing the lip with one hand. Powell scrambles out the belfry. Back on the roof, Abigail's fingers grip the rain gutter, a 3-story drop below her. Ben scrambles to the edge and peers over. From his vantage point, we have a nice clear view of Abigail's cleavage. It's impossible not to notice and gives Ben pause. The rain gutter creaks and is ready to give. How about a little help? Ben looks back to see Powell jump down from the clock tower.
No time.
Ben takes the Declaration of Independence
Hold this.
and shoves it down into Abigail's bosom. Jesus Christ. She's aghast. You can't!
Whatever you do, don't bend it.
With that, Ben stands and slams his foot hard down on the rain gutter, which tears away from the building, rivet by rivet. Pop, pop, pop. We follow Abigail as she falls, jerking sharply each time as a rivet tears away from the plaster. She holds on tight as the rain gutter swings down like a stiff copper vine. To her surprise, she lands softly. Independence Hall roof day. Powell goes to the edge and sees Abigail getting away. He hurries to a roof access ladder, but Ben tackles him from behind as she pins him to the ground. Just then, we hear Abigail scream. Ben looks down to see Ian and Shaw throw Abigail into a Corvette. That's not, like, 2 people fit in that. And then peel out. Ben takes off sprinting, running the length of the roof in the direction of the Corvette. Powell gets up and takes off running after Ben because if anybody can catch a Corvette, it's Nicolas Cage. Riley clambers down the clock tower and joins the chase. Ben gets to the end of the roof. There's a gap between Independence Hall and Congress Hall. Big one, no time to debate it. Ben launches himself across the gap and lands hard. Shoulder rolls to his feet. Powell follows suit. He leaps across the chasm, but lands short, his body slamming against the bricks and falling to the plaza below. Riley sees him fall, looks away, and decides to take the stairs. Congress Hall roof. Ben sprints across the roof, looks down to see the Corvette in traffic stuck at a few cars behind. Ben flings himself off the roof and onto a tree, lands on a branch, which instantly breaks. Ben tumbles into the roof of a moving truck on the street. Thunk. Back to the Corvette. Ian drives. Abigail sits stiffly in the front passenger seat and Shaw's gun to the back of her head.
Where's the map?
It's called the Declaration of Independence, and it's the reason we kicked your ass after the war, or your ass in the war. Ian sees the plastic sticking up from Abigail's blouse and reaches for it, but Abigail grabs his wrist.
Mustn't wrinkle it.
She relents, and Ian slips the document out of her bosom.
Consider this reparation.
Like, a map would not fit down in there and not be noticeable. It's just... A man totally wrote this. Ben crouches like a rodeo rider as the truck pulls alongside the Corvette. Ben lunges. Ben lands on top of the Corvette. Thunk. Ian and Shaw hear a clutter overhead. Ian pulls a gun from under his seat and fires up into the car roof. What is happening? Ben rolls aside as the car's roof is ripped by gunfire. Abigail grabs Ian's arm and struggles with him. Ian can't drive. Shoot Ben and fight her. Oh yeah, Ian can't drive, shoot Ben, and fight her at the same time. Ben barely manages to hang on as the car spins sideways across traffic, then crashes into the side door of another car. Back at the plaza, Sandusky hears and then sees the mayhem adjacent to the street.
Get people over there now.
Dawes gets on her radio and they all start sprinting towards 5th Street. As Sandusky and Dawes push through, the panicked tourists see the Corvette speeding through the traffic with Ben clinging to the roof. Is it him? Sandusky calls out.
Gates.
Ben turns. Their eyes meet. Sandusky gets a good look. It's his arm. Sandusky pulls out his gun and has a clean shot. As the Corvette slaloms traffic, Sandusky follows him with his gun, an easy target. His finger tightens on the trigger, but he just can't do it. The Corvette disappears around a building. Sandusky lowers his gun, mad at himself.
Shit.
Independence National Historic Park Day. The Corvette slams over the curb, sending screaming people ducking toward and diving out of the way. The Corvette speeds towards a line of redcoats. Soldiers scatter, parting like the Red Sea. Horses buck and bolt. Oh, I gotta keep going. It's like the end. Ian navigates through the battle. Suddenly, Ben reaches through the open window and grabs the Declaration of Independence from him. Ian fights it, but Abigail bites his arm. Ian smacks her, then whips the wheel. Back in the historic park day, sending Ben flying off the top of the Corvette. We follow Ben, who slams onto the grass, losing the Declaration of Independence, which rolls way down a grassy knoll. Ben gets to his feet, stunned. He realizes he's lost the document, which rolls into the path of a group of officers on horseback. Jesus Christ, this Declaration's done for. We follow the Declaration as it rolls through the sea of hooves, slamming down all around it. It finally stops rolling right in front of the British officer on horseback, who tries to calm his panic horse. Ben charges into the stampede. This is ridiculous. Ian sees Ben going for the Declaration of Independence, and he guns the Corvette right towards Ben and the horse. What is that going to do? The Corvette's engine screams. Ben dives one way and the horse rears back the other way, launching the British officer skyward. The Corvette skids between Ben and the Declaration of Independence, and the driver's side door pops open, and Ian scoops up the Declaration. Ian closes the door and turns back to drive, but is greeted by Abigail's elbow, which she slams into his face. Yeah. Ian's nose crunches, spurts blood, pissed off as hell. Ian reels around with his gun.
You little bit.
He goes to shoot, but just then a passenger side door pops open. Bill pulls out Abigail out the other side. Ben and Abigail roll away from the Corvette in the grass. Ian goes to shoot them, but is stopped by...
Forget him, look.
Ian looks through the windshield and sees dozens of Freds sprinting into the field of battle. Ian guns it. The Corvette peels out and Abigail watches it go. He's got the Declaration!
I know.
The British officer staggers to his feet and goes to his horse, but the horse is commandeered. Oh, he steals a horse now. The horse is commandeered by Ben, who leaps onto the horse's saddle, whips it around to find his path, and is blocked by Sandusky and a line of federal agents, guns drawn.
Freeze gates.
Ben looks at the Corvette, which disappears into traffic.
They're letting him get away.
Get off the horse and get on your knees.
The FBI agents move in as we pull above the mayhem to see a God's eye view of the feds swarming in on Abigail and Ben, who drops to his knees, defeated as we dissolve too. Close in on the bifocals, which sit on top of the otherwise bare metal table. We wind to reveal we're in an FBI interrogation room day. Ben sits across from Sandusky. Agents Johnson and Dawes, who finishes the last dregs of her coffee from a styrofoam cup. They don't look like magic glasses.
Nothing magic about it. It's an ancient optical effect. The Egyptians encoded all their major artworks with it. It's believed humans used to be able to see the 3D images with the naked eye, but the human eye evolved.
Evolved.
In the Bible, the oceans are described as being the color of wine. That's because the human eye couldn't see the color blue back then. Now it can. Benjamin Franklin was a genius and inventor. He designed these special lenses and used this optical effect to hide the map on the back of the Declaration of Independence.
You sure you don't want a lawyer?
Haven't you ever wondered why all those symbols are on the back of our $1 bill? The all-seeing eye, the pyramid. Our founding fathers were Freemasons, descendants of the Templar Knights who all the way back to ancient Egypt.
Sandusky and his team all exchange dubious looks then.
Anyone want more coffee?
No takers. Sandusky moves to go, but then Ben stops him with,
You didn't shoot me. Why?
What?
On the car, you had a clear beat on me. Why didn't you take it?
Because you don't fire into a crowd.
Because you knew there was something else going on here.
Sandusky studies Ben, says nothing.
I get the Declaration back. Ian Howe can't find the treasure without the glasses. I'll cut a deal with him. Tell him I'll give him the treasure if he gives us the Declaration of Independence.
Why don't you just tell us what the map said and we'll make the trade with Mr. Howell?
Ian's too smart for that.
Sandusky considers that, nodding his head then.
Want to know what I believe?
Everyone looks to Agent Johnson.
That you'd do anything to get your hands on that treasure. That you and Ian Howe made a deal. But once you got close to it, you both got greedy and you each decided you'd get more of the treasure without the other. Am I right?
Before Ben can answer, a knock at the door interrupts. Sandusky opens it, and it's Agent Colfax and Hendricks.
You find Howie?
Colfax and Hendricks exchange a solemn look then.
He just called
Great, where?
with his ransom demands. He wants Ben Gates. He's requested that we release him. And that no police or federal agents follow him.
Absolutely not. Out of the question.
He said that if we don't comply with his demands by midnight tonight, he'll
Kill what?
cut off a piece of the Declaration of Independence every hour and send it to us in a box.
The agents are all horrified by the prospect.
Stop bluffing.
Agent Johnson loses it and charges Ben, grabbing him by the collar and throwing him up against the wall.
You little prick. How do we know that you and Howe didn't plan this whole thing?
Don't.
Agent Johnson stares and daggers at Ben, who looks to Sandusky.
But I'm all you've got.
Inside the bullpen, Sandusky escorts a handcuffed Ben towards a glass-walled conference room. Inside, agents huddle around Agent Hendricks, who talks on the phone. Hendricks sees Sandusky and pokes his head out of the room.
It's Howie. He wants to talk to Gates.
Back in the conference room, wearing handcuffed, Ben takes the phone from Agent Hendricks.
Hello, Ian.
A long beat as Ben listens. A digital recorder records the conversation in the background while Agent Colfax monitors it on headphones. Finally,
Yes, I understand.
with that, he hangs up and looks at Sandusky.
USS Intrepid, Portside, East River. He's coming in by chopper
New York?
in 3 hours.
We'd better hurry. He say anything else?
No feds, no wires, or no deal.
Exterior New York Harbor. Islands crammed with high-rises. Retired combat aircraft sit idle on the deck. Flags and pennants on top of the U.S. Intrepid flap in the breeze. Exterior harbor parking lot day. High-tech van sits in the parking lot. Several antennas protrude from the van's roof. Interior FBI van day. The surveillance vehicle is packed with equipment. Shirt off, Ben is wired by Sandusky's team while Sandusky watches sitting on a computer bay. Agent Colfax wears headphones.
Say something?
Put my shirt back on.
All right, he's good.
Ben climbs out of the van and turns back.
I need the bifocals.
Agent Dawes gives them to him, and Ben pockets them.
As soon as he shows you the declaration, we'll move in. Don't try anything.
Back on the bridge, hidden here is an FBI sniper. Through his scope, we follow Ben as he climbs the gangway and steps onto the deck. Back on a building rooftop across the street, more feds watch and wait. Agent Hendricks searches the skies with binoculars for the chopper. Back on the Intrepid deck, building rooftop day, finally Agent Hendricks sees something in the distance.
Got a visual?
We see it now, a tiny speck in the sky. A chopper? FBI van, Day, Sandusky sits with Agent Dawes and Colfax. Think it's Hal? Sandusky leans into a microphone.
Get ready, Gates.
Back on the deck of the Intrepid, Ben moves to the edge of the deck. Nothing but river below. He checks his watch then.
Sandusky.
Intercut Sandusky in the van.
Yeah?
I want you to know that Abigail had nothing to do with this. I know you believe me.
Intercut Sandusky and Dawes, exchanging worried looks. What the hell is he talking about?
Shit, he set us up.
Intercut Ben on the deck. He jumps a 60-foot drop. Splash. Ben dives into the East River. FBI van Day. There's a loud pop on the wires on Ben's body short out. Agent Colfax whips off his headset.
Son of a bitch!
Harbor parking lot Day. Calling orders into the radio. Sandusky and Dawes jump out of the van, sprint across the parking lot.
Gates jumped. He's in the river. Move in. Move in.
Back on the bridge, FBI sniper scrambles and searches the water below. Can't see shit. The flight deck blocks his view. Ben surfaces a few feet from the hull. A beat then bubbles next to him, and a diver's head pops out of the water. The diver slips back with his mask. It's Riley.
Ransom demand?
Riley grins, affects the British accent.
I really like that part, too.
He hands Ben, it's perfect, a tank and a regulator and a set of fins and grins.
Just like diving for that wreck off the coast of France.
Ben jams the regulator into his mask. They disappear from the surface. Back on the deck, the F-feds lean over the flight deck, searching the murky water. More feds scour the shore, no sign of Ben. Back in a holding cell, Sandusky moves purposely down a line of holding cells, stops at one. Inside sits Abigail.
We know you're not involved. You're free to go.
Abigail looks at him, surprised. Outside of Trinity Church evening, on the corner of Wall Street and Broadway, this medieval Gothic church is dwarfed by modern skyscrapers all around. Interior Trinity Church evening. We follow a man's legs walking up the aisle. He stops at a pew, sits. We wind to reveal that it's Ian.
You're late.
I took a look around, waited, made sure you weren't working with the FBI.
Satisfied?
Not until I get that treasure.
You have the Declaration of Independence.
If I give it to you now, how do I know you won't just walk off with it and forget about the treasure?
How do I know you'll give me the Declaration of Independence after I show you where the treasure is?
I guess we're just gonna have to trust each other.
It's easy for you to say I never tried to kill you.
Come on, Ben, this is a treasure hunt. It's just the way it is. I actually quite like you. If we weren't such enemies, I do believe we'd be great friends.
Forget it, Ian. Deal's off.
Ben stands and starts down the aisle. Ian calls after him.
All right.
Ian pulls out his cell phone and punches a number.
Bring it.
I want the pipe, too.
What pipe?
Meerschaum pipe from the Charlotte. I found it. You took it.
Ian rolls his eyes and then talks into the phone.
And bring the bloody pipe.
With that, Ian hangs up. A beat. The church doors open and Shaw enters with the Declaration of Independence in a mailing tube. Shaw approaches and hands Ben the tube. He opens it, verifies that the Declaration of Independence is inside, and then hands it back. Ben then reaches into his pocket and pulls out the bifocals. Ian regards them, realizing...
The all-seeing eye.
We found them in the Independence Hall, Belford. There really is a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. It's the most fantastic thing you'll ever see.
Ian is caught up in the moment. He reaches for the bifocals, but then Ben accidentally drops them. We watch as the bifocals fall to the floor in slow-mo and then land on the tile floor crack. And if that isn't bad enough, Ben flinches them off by stomping on them with his shoe. Crunch. The bifocals lie on the floor in a million crystal pieces.
Oops, I guess we'll just have to take my word for it.
What is happening? Enraged, Ian lunges at Ben and tackles him in the church floor. Parishioners crane their necks to see the commotion. Ian pins Ben and shoves a gun into Ben's mouth.
I'll kill you for that.
You do, and the secret to the treasure dies with me.
Ian stares at Ben, knows he's not bluffing.
I give you the treasure, you give me the Declaration of Independence.
That's it?
That's it.
Ian stands and holds out his hand for Ben.
I guess that makes us partners again.
Ben ignores him, gets to his feet.
Oh yeah, and no guns.
Inside the church foyer. The Reverend enters the foyer just as Ben, Ian, and Shaw exit. Reverend moves from the collection dish and finds 2 guns. He looks around. Where did these come from? Outside the church, Ben, Ian, and Shaw exit the church, passing an old lady in a black shawl who reaches out and grabs Ben's wrist. Startled, Ben looks at the woman and realizes it's Abigail. She pushes back her shroud.
What are you doing here?
I saw the map, remember? Ben and Ian exchange a knowing look.
Bloody hell.
Oh, don't worry, nobody followed me. Interior Plaza Hotel Lounge night. Sandusky, Dawes, and Johnson enter. Agents Hendricks and Colfax stand outside the ladies' restroom, tails between their legs.
She has to go to the bathroom. She was only in there for 30 seconds, I swear.
Sandusky looks around, moving forward.
All right. Both Gates and Dr. Chase came here to Manhattan. What for?
The treasure.
There's no way any treasure's still buried here. Everything's changed. Ground's been dug up for subways and underground parking lots, high rises.
So what in Manhattan hasn't changed in over 200 years?
Exterior Trinity Church graveyard night. Worn tombstones and crypts going all the way back to the 17th century are enclosed in this ancient churchyard by an old wrought iron fence. Ben, Abigail, Ian, and Shaw come around the corner.
Normally I find graveyards rather depressing, but in this case, I find it uplifting and full of promise. Where do we start?
Riley approaches carrying a shovel.
Bad news. There's no X.
Yes, there is.
I've looked all over.
You're not looking right.
Problem, partner?
No.
Ben and Abigail look around, then Ben looks to the sky.
In the map, there was a crescent moon in the sky.
Then maybe the X can only be seen at night?
Well, it's
Ben?
night now, and I don't see it.
With that, Ben pulls open the heavy church doors and light spills out of the chapel, cutting a swath through the graveyard, casting an eerie tombstone shadows everywhere, none of which look like an X, except maybe Ben moves to where a shadow of a plant is cast onto a long wall of stone crypt. Ben backtracks, following the source of the shadow to a gravestone covered in ivy. But as Ben starts pulling away the ivy, Ian and the others approach. Ben clears the ivy, revealing the gravestones. We see now that a Templar cross has been hewn out of the ancient stone. They all exchange knowing looks.
X marks the spot.
Here, under this grave?
Ian grabs Riley's shovel, goes to start digging, but Ben stops him with,
No. There.
Ben points across the cemetery. They all follow his finger and finally see it. The X in the gravestone casts a giant shadow of an X on the side of the stone crypt. Ben smiles.
Marks the spot.
He moves to the crypt. The shadow falls in the direct center. Riley laughs excitedly.
Can you believe that?
I will when I see the treasure.
Ben kneels beside the worn crypt, feels carefully along the surface as if reading Braille. He stops, digs out some soft dirt, revealing what looks to be a small keyhole. Ian,
Ian, give me the pipe.
Shaw digs the pipe out of his pocket and hands it to Ben. Abigail eyes the pipe. My God, that's an amazing piece. What craftsmanship.
I know. That's why I hate this part.
What part? Ben slams the pipe against the stone. It shatters, revealing a thin skeleton key that was hidden inside. Wow, savage. Ben scoops up the key and slips it into the keyhole. A perfect fit. He looks to the others, who all stand by anxiously, and turns the key. Suddenly, there is a loud scraping sound as a 2-foot thick section of the crypt slides open on an ancient pulley system. As it opens, we can see a narrow passage, barely wide enough for one person to squeeze through, and very dark. They all exchange a look, and Riley can't help but smile at their sudden success. Ian looks to Riley.
You first.
No way. The guy who goes first always gets killed.
That's silly.
Hey, I don't make the rules. There's always a map with an X, and there's always a trap. Maps and traps. That's just what guys who hide treasures do.
I'll go first.
Ben flicks on a flashlight and ducks down inside. In the underground stairway, old moss covers the steps that descend a steep angle into darkness. Ben waves his flashlight around. The passageway below takes a sharp turn. He calls up to the others.
Looks okay.
Back in the graveyard, Riley steps down next, but just then the lid begins to rumble close. Ian pushes Abigail harshly aside. In the underground stairwell, Ben hears a rumbling, looks back, and sees Ian and Shaw coming down the stairs, pushing by Riley.
Where's Abigail?
Ben pushes by them and charges back to the stairs to see the crypt entrance is closing. Abigail looks into the crypt. It's almost closed. She scrambles to her feet, lunges through the crypt, and tumbles through the door, and rolls right into Ben's arms just as the crypt door seals behind her, inches from crushing her. Ben holds her their faces almost touching. The chemistry. It's electric! How'd I know if I hung out with you long enough I'd eventually be robbing graves? Ben grins, cocky. Just then, Riley pokes his head into the stairwell carrying a lantern.
You guys coming down the creepy stairway or what?
Interior of the underground catacombs passageway. Ben, Abigail, and Riley join Ian and Shaw as they move down this long stone-walled tunnel.
I know you all think I'm the bad guy, but were it not for me making the hard choices, we wouldn't be here now, would we?
You don't want to be the bad guy, Ian. All you have to do is give me the Declaration of Independence.
Even if I gave it to you, you wouldn't leave. You're too close.
Try me.
Ian studies Ben for a beat. Then,
Sorry, I need you to find the treasure.
Abigail holds her lantern up to the walls, which are intermittently coffered with a lion's head, solar crosses, and snakes. She looks to Ben, who explains,
Masonic symbols.
"What do they mean?"
That we're getting close.
Watch out for the trap, because it's coming up.
Then Abigail, Riley, Ian, and Shaw enter this dark, dank, dirt-walled room. They shine the lights about, but there's nothing here.
Dead end.
Suddenly, a skeleton's torso falls out of the ceiling right in front of Riley's face. He screams.
Ah.
I love you, Jeremy. Ben shines his flashlight upwards to see hundreds of grinning skulls. Grim grinning ghosts come out to socialize. Half buried in the dirt ceiling, peering down at them. The remnants of the uniforms, boots, and brass buttons can be seen. Hessians. German soldiers who fought for the British during the Revolution. They were buried in a common grave. Shaw looks up. Just above him, there was a gun and a flintlock powder horn in a dead soldier's belt.
There must be another outlet. Something we missed. Come on.
They all turn to go, but Shaw hangs back. He reaches up to the gun and tries to take it, but it's stuck. As Shaw yanks harder, bits of dirt, dust, and rain down on him suddenly. A bayoneted rifle swings out of the ceiling like a pendulum attached to a skeleton's arm and stabs Shaw in the chest. The group turns and sees Shaw as he staggers back with the rifle stuck in his chest. Ben goes to help him, but Shaw crashes into the dirt wall behind him, which caves in under his weight. Shaw falls through the hole in the hall, screaming all the way down, which sounds like a long way down. The group rushes to the hole and shine their lights to it, revealing a deep, narrow shaft in the wall. In the shaft there hangs two heavy chains, weighted, attached.
Well, Riley was right twice for once. That was fortunate, now wasn't it?
I was like, wait, what? Ben reaches into the shaft and adjusts the weights on the chains. The chains creak with an ancient wooden box and descends into view with a higher from the shaft. Ben and Abigail exchange a look. Looks like an elevator. Ben and Riley pry open the door to the box. A million rats, cockroaches pour out from the elevator cab. They all gulp, staring at the vermin. A beat.
I hate elevators.
Ben steps inside. The elevator creaks and groans but holds.
Come on.
They all step in, more creaking. Ben adjusts the weights again and the cab descends. Interior, exterior, church, various. Sandusky's team sweep the church and surrounding grounds. Outside in the church graveyard, Sandusky is here kneeling in the dirt next to the crypt. He picks up the piece of the broken meerschaum pipe and examines him. Agent Dawes approaches. Got a positive ID from the Reverend? They were here. Man, Sandusky isn't listening. He looks at the crypt and notices the edges of the stone have recently been disturbed. The ivy growth has also been torn away. What is it? Sandusky tries to lift the crypt stone to no avail. There's no moving that. It's got to weigh a ton. Sandusky looks at Agent Dawes and realizes she's right.
I want sonar here on the double and bring in a jackhammer.
Underground elevator cage. All eyes look around warily as the cab descends creakily into the depths of unknown. Deeper, deeper still. Yeah, Riley?
Uh,
Are you
I
okay?
just want to point out that there are no buttons on the panel. In fact, there is no panel. How's this thing going to take us back up?
It's a one-way elevator.
And it's not an elevator, is it? Because it doesn't elevate.
Suddenly, the cab stops. They've hit something. Water rushes in at their feet, filling the cab up to their ankles. Riley and Ian push open the wooden elevator door, and more water rushes in. Interior, the catacombs antechamber. They shine their lights on the room. The chamber is circular, and there's a stone platform in the center. Three 14th century swords jut out of the stone platform in crisscross formation.
Templar swords.
Ian moves to the platform, followed by Ben and Abigail. Riley slogs out last. He steps something which crunches under his feet. Riley looks down to find a skeleton.
I knew it. It's a trap.
It's a thwap. Riley starts searching the walls for a way out with Ian, Ben, and Abigail study the swords. What do they mean? And Ian reaches for one of the swords.
Ian, I wouldn't.
Jeremy, you're killing me. But what does he get anyway? He pulls out the center sword. We immediately hear the rushing sound of water. Everyone looks around. The sound is all around them.
What's that?
But Ian doesn't care. He just studies the sword. Riley continues feeling the walls, but can find no exit.
How are we supposed to get out of here?
Look at this.
Ben shines the light onto the side of the platform to see a bas relief of a snake cut into pieces, carved into the stone. Abigail immediately recognized the severed snake symbol. Join or die.
I say we join.
Ben kneels down to study a stone slot in the circular stone and a vertex of a triangle etched onto the floor.
When we were at war with France, Ben Franklin drew a political cartoon of a snake cut into 8 pieces, representing the 8 colonies of the time. The cartoon called the colonies to join or die.
The sound of the rushing water intensifies as Ben notices 2 more slots of the floor of the triangle's other vesticles.
What does that mean?
Now the sound of the rushing water builds into a crescendo, and suddenly water vomits into the chamber from several ancient drains in the walls near the ceiling. The force of thundering cascade knocks all of them off their feet. Ian drops his sword, but more importantly, he drops the Declaration of Independence into the water. Jesus. Water also pours into the chamber from the elevator shaft. Before anyone can react, the chamber is already filled up to their chests. Abigail and Ben both see the Declaration of Independence and its 2 bobbing around in the churning water. Ben frantically swims to it, but it slips away, just out of his reach. I got it! The tube floats to Abigail. She scoops it out of the water, then holds it over her head as the water swirls around her. The chamber is filling quickly, and now it's mostly dark. Except for the faint glow of submerged flashlights, everyone claws the walls, finding no purchase in the smooth stone. Ben calls over the din of the rushing water.
Listen, we have to work together. Join or die.
How?
There's a triangle carved into the floor. At each vertex, there's a slot. We must get the swords, then each of us must stick them in the slots and turn the swords. All of us together.
Riley regards Ben for a long beat.
Are you out of your mind?
Ben answers by disappearing under the water's surface. Riley and Abigail exchange a look, then Riley looks up at the flat stone ceiling. Is only a few feet overhead now, and they'll be drowned soon. Riley takes a deep breath and then dives down. Underwater, Ben dives down onto the platform. The 2 remaining swords are still sticking up out of it. He grabs one. Riley swims up behind him and grabs the other. They both kick them back towards the surface. In the chamber, Ben and Riley resurface with the swords, grasping for breath.
Find the slot at the triangle's vertex. Go!
All 3 disappear underwater, leaving Abigail holding the Declaration up high, but the water is rising rapidly. Outside in the graveyard, workers finally jackhammer through the crypt wall, and Sandusky peers inside. Back in the catacombs antechamber, Abigail still holds the Declaration of Independence above her head, but there is less than a foot of space left now. Underwater, Riley and Ian dive down, feel the floor, and find the edges of the triangle and follow them. Ben also feels the floor, searching for the sword. In the chamber, only inches of space left now. Abigail presses Declaration of Independence and her face against the ceiling in the cramped pocket of air. Ian follows his edge, finds a vertex slot, shoves the sword into it, and turns it. Riley finds his vertex and does the same. Ben finally finds the sword. In the chamber, Abigail and the Declaration of Independence are now completely submerged. There's no air pocket anymore. Ben finds the third vertex, plunges the sword into the slot, and turns it. On Abigail, suddenly the chamber ceiling rumbles as the heavy stone ceilings start to slide apart. Cut to pitch black, we hear scraping sound of the stone floor rolling open. As it does, the faintest glimmer of light peeks up from the submerged flashlights below. A beat, then Abigail's hand pokes up through the crack in the floor, holding the Declaration of Independence. She tosses it aside into the dry floor, and she pulls herself up through the opening. Ian pulls himself up through the floor next, then rolls aside, gasping for air in a soggy heap. Back in the catacombs ossuary, Sandusky and his teams sprint down the passageway and come to the grave room. Only now the elevator shaft is completely flooded. The elevator chains disappear into a pool of water which spills into the ossuary.
There's got to be another way down. Find it.
The water gurgles up in the widening crack in the floor, and Abigail waits by it. A beat, then Riley surfaces, coughing. Where's Ben? Ian catches his breath and then peers into the darkness. In the distance, we can see something glimmering. Suddenly, the floor starts rumbling closed again. Panic, Abigail, not Annabelle, calls out, Ben! Ben! Ian picks up the Declaration of Independence, which lies on the stone floor near him. Just then, Ben comes up, gasping for air, choking on swallowed water, but holding a flashlight.
I thought we might need this.
The flashlight beams cut through the darkness, and we catch glimpses of pillars and statues and stone steps.
That,
Beam of light stops on something very shiny. It's a three-tiered bronze gilded altar. The very sight of it makes Abigail gasp. Ian stares at it, mesmerized.
All right, froze. Hold on. An altar of bronze, 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide. Second Book of Chronicles.
Ian and Ben exchange knowing looks.
Stolen from the Temple of Solomon in the 5th century BC.
The group moves to the altar where they find candles and torches. They quickly light them and turn to see the treasure chamber. Dozens of marble Doric and Corinthian columns line the walls of the enormous cavernous chamber filled with ancient treasures. Crown jewels, gold and silver plates, chalices, gilded cherubim, olive wood furniture, carriages, loot from the Oracle of Delphi, and countless sacred artifacts. This is what must have been like to find King Tut's tomb.
don't say that. Those guys were cursed.
Ian starts moving through the chamber, just in awe of its treasures, but Ben doesn't move. He just stands there.
We're taking the Declaration of Independence now, Ian.
Ian finds a chest, opens it, and it's filled with ancient Greek Roman coins.
Oh, come on, Ben. Have some fun.
Ian moves past the chest, and Riley can't help himself. He goes to it, sticks his hand in it, and comes up with a handful of coins. He laughs, incredulous.
Deal's a deal, Ian.
But Ian isn't listening. He's found another ancient sword, only this one is different. Special. Its silver handle is decorated with images of scythed chariots engaged in a battle with famous Macedonian king. Riley steps up behind Ian. He sees the sword.
Cool gothic sword.
Not just any sword.
Ian picks it up. It's heavy. It weighs more than 30 pounds. Yes, I know.
It's the sword of Alexander the Great.
As Ian holds up the sword, we notice that it almost glistens with an ethereal power.
It was used to conquer the world.
Without warning, Ian swings the sword backwards under his arm in a rowing motion and plunges it into Riley's stomach?
No!
Riley staggers back, stunned. Then he collapses. Shocked and horrified, Ben and Abigail rush to Riley. He's bleeding badly. What?
Riley, I didn't beat it.
Riley, oh Jesus.
Ben takes off his shirt, balls it up, and presses it on Riley's wound. Abigail helps Ben hold it there, and Riley looks up to Ben. He knows it's bad. He grimaces in agony. What?
Ow.
With that, Ian swings his sword.
At least I was rich before I died.
With that, swings his sword at Ben, who just barely rolls out of the way that time. The sword hits the stone fort with a loud clank, taking out a divot of stone.
You couldn't just want the treasure now, could you, Ben?
Ian swings again, but then grabs a bronze plate and blocks the blow. Sparks fly as the plate shifts.
You couldn't just be reasonable and argue with me over shares. I say, how about 70-30? And then you say, how about 60-40? And then I say, what about 80-20?
Ben scrambles to his feet and Ian chases him.
No, you had to go and be all noble.
He swings the sword at Ben again, but then Ben dives behind a suit of armor, which Ian smashes with his sword. Ben goes down with the medieval suit, which clatters to the ground. Ben shoulder rolls to his feet and comes up with a sword of his own. They face off. On guard! They circle each other.
I don't trust honest men.
Ian strikes, Ben parries, their swords cross with others. There's a sword fight, guys. They push off each other and their duel begins in earnest. Where's Jeremy and the lightsaber? Actually, it's more like two guys fighting in a bar with heavy swords. Neither is trained in fencing, but neither is about to give up first. They exchange blows in an exhausting Rob Roy-esque sword fight. Ian attacks, Ben parries, and simultaneously delivers the brutal kick to Ian's ribs, staggering Ian. The Declaration of Independence falls to the ground and rolls away down the stone steps. Angered, Ian winds up, strikes a vicious blow, and Ben deflects it with his sword, which breaks in half. The other half clanks to the ground. On Abigail, she's applying pressure to Riley's wounds. Don't die, damn it! She sees the Declaration of Independence rolling towards the slatted drain on the floor. She grabs Riley's hands and puts them now on bloody, balled-up shirt. Apply pressure. Gotta save the Declaration of Independence. Riley weakly holds on to the field dressing as Abigail hurries. Still rolling Declaration of Independence, which is almost to the drain. Abigail dives for it, but just misses it, and the Declaration of Independence slips through the slats and disappears down the drain. Holy crap on Ian and Ben. Ian swings and Ben ducks and dodges, and Ian's sword catches pieces of him, slices into Ben's shoulder and chest. On Abigail, she sticks her hand into the drain. Oh, God, that's brave. Inside the drain, the Declaration of Independence is stuck way down deep in the drain where the drain narrows. Abigail's hand reaches down for the tube, but it's just out of reach. On Ben and Ian, bloodied, Ben hurls the broken sword at Ian, who deflects it and charges Ben. Ben scrambles over the treasure pile, improvising, grabbing whatever he can to parry Ian's blows. A chalice, clink, burn, which shudders. Then Ben grabs an alabaster cherubim. He holds it to deflect the blow, but notices that it's just too beautiful to ruin. Ben sets it back down, then dives behind a pillar just as Ian swings again, striking the pillar instead. Wham! Great band. Chunks of marble fly. Ian circles around the pillar, chasing the wounded Ben with his sword. Ian swings. Ben ducks. This time, Ian's sword gets stuck in the pillar. Well, that's right out of a cartoon. As Ian, tries to extricate. Ow! There you go. Ben pushes a Greek limestone statue, but it's heavy. It teeters and finally tips. What? You're ruining things. Ian turns. Still got the treasures are just being ruined. It's like stage 48 again. Ian turns just in time to see the statue about to crash, but it doesn't crush Ian. The statue instead crashes onto the pillar, leaving just enough space to see Ian. Ian grabs the sword and yanks it out. Bad idea. The pillar gives away and the statue finishes its fall, smashing down on Ian, killing him instantly and tearing a hole in the stone wall behind him. Water gushes in from the hole. It's the elevator shaft. Well, crap. As the water rushes in the whole treasure chamber, it begins to rumble. Pieces of stone ceiling start to fall, crashing all around. Ben looks to see Abigail still struggling with the drain. On Abigail, she's got her whole arm in the drain, but she still can't reach the Declaration of Independence. Rocks and debris rains down all around her.
Look out!
Abigail pulls her hand out of the drain, turns to see Ben holding the sword of Alexander up high. He swings it down, smashing the drain open. Abigail quickly reaches in and pulls out the Declaration of Independence. They hurry to Riley. Everything is shaking and falling apart.
The treasure room's caving in.
We know.
That always happens.
Ben and Abigail grab Riley under his arms and help him to the pillars that crash through the wall. The water has leveled off in the shaft. Back in the catacomb shaft, Ben and Abigail peer into the shaft. The two chains disappear into the water below.
We have to get in the water.
Can you swim?
Do I have a
Lost him.
choice?
As everything in the treasure chamber collapses behind him, Ben pushes Riley into the water and jumps in after him. Abigail follows, and Ben swings the sword and cuts one of the chains. The elevator shoots out of the depths, catching Ben, Abigail, and Riley and carrying them up the shaft. Back in the catacombs ossuary, the three roll off the roof of the charging elevator and spill into the ossuary floor as the elevator disappears up the shaft with the sword. This is wild. Abigail lands on Ben. They regard each other. Of course, she probably lands on top of him. There's like a moment where they like stare into each other's eyes. Surprised to be alive, dust and debris settle in the room. Riley lies in the dirt, staring up at the hundreds of grinning skulls around him.
Are we dead?
Back in the church graveyard, Sandusky and his team and dozens of police are here.
Hey, can we get a little help over here?
Sandusky turns to see Abigail and Ben helping Riley out of the crypt stairwell. In an instant, a swarm of federal agents and police are on them. Exterior Trinity Church Broadway, Sandusky hands the Declaration of Independence over to an armored transport, which pulls away with an escort of a dozen police cars. Sandusky's team, Ben and Abigail, stand nearby with two EMTs who load Riley into an ambulance.
He's lost a lot of blood, but he's gonna be fine.
Now Sandusky approaches.
Okay, guys, let's go.
The federal agents all start to leave. Ben and Abigail look at each other, confused.
Aren't you going to arrest us?
What for? You do something wrong?
Ben and Abigail exchange a look like, no, okay, go, bye. Sandusky grins at them and then heads to the sedan.
You kids need a ride?
Ben and Abigail smile at each other.
No thanks, we'll walk.
All right, good night.
Park at night. Close in on Sandusky's hand as he climbs into the car. On his finger, we now see what he wears, a silver Masonic ring, just like the one Charles Carroll gave to Count Pulaski wore. As Sandusky drives, Ben and Abigail look back to the Trinity Church graveyard.
Bad no one will ever know.
We'll know. With that, she kisses Ben, a long, deep kiss. Then, suddenly, Ben pulls away.
Just tell me one thing. Does this kiss mean anything?
Only time will tell. With that, they kiss some more as we pull back to the federal agents, all get in their cars and leave. Dissolve to National Archives Rotunda, Ben, Abigail, and Riley, who's all better now, and Ben's dad, Patrick, Sandusky, and his whole team, Dr. Herbert Woodruff, and all the National Security Guards stand proud, watching as the Declaration of Independence is raised back up into its display case to the wall exhibit. Dr. Herbert crosses himself, thank God. Woodruff sheds a tear. Ben, Abigail, and Riley exchange cocky smiles. Dr. Herbert checks his watch.
Opening time.
And with that, the ceremony is over. Everybody scatters back to their regular routine. Woodruff takes one more look at the precious document, then shrugs.
No one will ever know.
Exterior National Archives, North Foyer, morning. Two guards open the front doors and the museum patrons and tourists start filling in. Ben and Riley cross the traffic and head down the front steps. It's another beautiful day on Pennsylvania Avenue. Riley takes it all in and then sighs.
So any other family quests, treasures that you might know about, something else I can waste 7 years of my life with?
No, that was the only one.
Dates pool.
They turn to find Sandusky and his team approaching.
But now?
It seems that, well, the president's been looking for something else for a very long time, and he would very much appreciate your help in finding it.
They're like detectives for hire now. Ben and Riley look at each other and grin big as we start slowly pulling up for an overhead view of the National Archives.
I don't know, Sandusky. How much we paying? Because the last expedition I went on was sort of a bust.
How much do you want?
As they talk, we continue pulling up until we have a glorious sky-high panoramic view of our great nation's capital, and we fade out. The end. I want to thank all of our players tonight. You guys did an amazing job. And Jared, thank you for the most because I really fucked up and did not give you much at all. And I love you for being such a trooper. But this was so much fun. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a good night. And then I got